appreciate the tremendous record that you set tonight. You set an all-time record for your state. And it really was. It was tremendous turnout, tremendous. It's they had lines going back, and they sort of knew who was going to win. You get 98%. We wanted to get over 80, and we got 98. And also, if you remember, and last night, you know what happened last night, right? None of the above. So I'd like to congratulate none of the above. I was one of those none of ever aboves. I was one of them. No, I watched that last night, and they won by 44 points. None of the above. So I want to congratulate. But seriously, we have to get back. This was a great day. This was a great night. Our Supreme Court hopefully will be doing something in terms of helping our country and preserving democracy. We have to preserve our democracy. And I think they had a very, very interesting day and a very beautiful day, perhaps. I think it was really a very beautiful sight to watch. And it's the way it's supposed to be. And hopefully the decision will be a very important decision. But there's never been anything like it. In the polls, we're leading everybody. We are right now. Is there any way we can call the election for next Tuesday? That's all I want. I want to call the election for next Tuesday, but we're going to make our country great again. We're going to make it great. We're going to make it greater than ever before. The enthusiasm and the turnout, Doug and I were talking, I don't think you've ever seen anything like it, right? You were at various of the caucus sites, and they both came back and they said, we've never seen anything like it. Would you like?
And then Doug Burgum comes up and talks. But welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. It is Friday, a couple hours after the election coverage. For those of you who are joining that, don't forget to like the videos if you like the videos. And of course, share them far and wide. Subscribe. Hell, even if you're on locals right now, mosey on over to Rumble, subscribe and like. Vice versa, everywhere, YouTubers, getters, all the like. Because that stuff really does help us. All right. So there's the president, former president, talking about big turnout. He wanted to get above 80%. Well, he's above 99% currently. He's about 99.1 with a little bit more vote to go. Will he hit 60,000? It would have to be something else outstanding that we don't know about, but yes, it is possible. What happened is that Washoe County had roughly as much as we were estimating that they did. That was pretty ballpark. But what really got him closer when Clark had less than everyone expected, a little bit less than people expected. What really, and by the way, it's trickling in little at a time. There's a little bit more in Clark at a time. What really happened is that Carson City came in with another 1,000 votes when we were only estimating that they would have about 800 or so. So it inched him closer. Carson City, Washoe County. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. These are areas where I thought we would see some pretty significant disparity. Of course, he was going to win overwhelmingly, but if he was going to get in the 80s anywhere last night, it would have been Carson City. It would have been out and around Reno, which is Washoe County, but the more affluent suburbs around Reno. That didn't happen. I mean, that did not happen. He got rounded up 100% of the vote in many of these precincts, and 99.56, stuff like that. So look, this is a big deal. And maybe you're looking at the cover right now and you're saying, Rich, but it's 4 for 4. It was only 3 contests. No, I meant 4 for 4. Because on the election night, on Tuesday, when they held the primary instead, none of these candidates broke a record as well. And none of these candidates is him. Here's the incredible part about all of this. He set the record for the most votes received in a Republican primary in 2016 when he beat Mitt Romney, who had set the prior records, which was nothing. I mean, Mitt Romney's record was 21,000 votes. I mean, Nevada is not that big, and caucus turnout is usually not that. It's not overwhelming, especially on the Republican side. But in 16, it was significant, and Trump got about just under 35,000 votes, 34,500 and change. All right. Last night, and just to bring it up right now, CNN Decision Desk, which we use, a lot of them, normally Decision Desk is ahead of everybody. But once in a while, things slow down on them. I don't know what happened, but they have just about everything except for Washoe County and about 2,000 votes in Clark. So right now, the New York Times currently has the most updated number, and their officials, in case you haven't been scrolling through Twitter, people have been doing a pretty good job trying to get everybody an idea of what really is out there and what's not. All right. So this is where we're at. And right now, Trump has just below 60,000 votes. So he smashed his own record, almost doubled it, which is astonishing for a caucus in Nevada. All right. I mean, this is a big deal. And it's not just a record break. He's going to beat Nikki Haley's vote by nearly 3-1 she had in a primary. Folks, it is a lot easier to get people to participate in a primary than it is to have them participate in a caucus. We saw the lines. They were huge from Reno to Vegas. They were massive. They were wrapped around blocks. People waited hours to get in. Adam Laxalt, the former candidate for U.S. Senate on the Republican side in 2022, waited over 2 hours to get into his caucus site. And there were still people waiting around. So people are wondering, what in the hell was going on with how long it takes. Nevada is always that way. But I got to tell you, once the votes started coming in, it really wasn't that bad. This was all done by paper ballot, by hand. Check the ID, voter ID. Another very significant part of all of this is that the initiative that they have, they need to get voter ID on the ballot. And everyone who showed up for the caucus was asked to sign that to get voter ID on the ballot. So the bigger the turnout, the worse it is for Democrats who do not want voter ID. Their voters do. I have polled this everywhere, every state damn near nationally. Well, technically, I have polled it in every state because of the national polls being so big. But I mean, individual state polls. Everywhere we poll, even Democrats want voter ID. It's only the crazy media liberals and the crazy elected Democrats that fight this. The body of the people absolutely want it. And that includes not just Republicans, overwhelmingly independents, and a majority of Democrats. So, I mean, you're talking about 75, 80% of people who say, yes, there should be matched voter ID. I'd rather wait a little bit if that's what it takes. To me, that's a little bit antiquated, and we should just go with fingerprint verification that you use to get into your damn iPhone, your iMac, everywhere else. If you can do it for your phone, folks, you can do it for the vote. And that's what people want. That was always the most popular selection when we polled it, and I love the idea. I do. But here we go. So as you can see, if we just do a real quick run around the entire state, 99%, but actually, if you look at Clark, it's a little bit more than that. It is 90. He is at, hold on, I think it's like 99.45 or something, or 99.35, excuse me. Washoe County, same thing, roughly. There may be some more votes out in Washoe, but for the most part, we were estimating about 12,000. If you got 14,000 votes out of Washoe, then obviously he would easily beat that. But this is a huge deal. Every state that Republicans have held a contest in thus far, Donald Trump has set a record. He beat his own, forget about his own. He beat Ted Cruz's personal record, and was everyone's record, for the most votes received in an Iowa caucus. Ted Cruz held it from 2016. He clobbered it. Then we went over to and by the way, he also got the fastest race call. And what else? There was a third one. He beat the largest margin to win the Iowa caucuses by. Then more than doubles it, by the way. Then we head to New Hampshire. We go to New Hampshire, and he sets the record. He beats Bernie Sanders for the most votes ever received in a New Hampshire primary. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. He also sets the record for the percentage of the population statewide that votes for a candidate in a friggin' primary. And this is with Nikki Haley pumping the electorate with Democrats, behavioral Democrats. Then we head to the primary, where he's not on the ballot because party rules said you cannot appear on both. Nikki Haley absolutely wanted a narrative win. This has been their plan for months, to go and sit down with NBC and pretend otherwise. This woman lies with ease, Laura. This woman is Hillary Clinton only on the Republican side.
Burnett.
She is a liar of the highest. She can lie to your face, bald face, no problem, without even batting an eye. It's incredible to me. I mean, it's a gift. Nikki Haley is a gift. She's like a pathological liar. Or not like, she is, right. And then in any event, she gets her ass, she gets her butt kicked in spectacular fashion to none of these candidates, which received about 47,000 votes for a primary. I can tell you, because we did this, for me, for my personal satisfaction and knowledge, we decided to make some calls in Nevada. And there were Republican voters who showed up on Tuesday and looked at the ballot and went, what is this? I came here to vote for Donald Trump. I'm none of these candidates, and walked out. They didn't know. So I guess there was reason for the Trump campaign to be kind of angry after all, but whatever, it worked out because organically, Joe Lombardo, the governor, made an offhand comment about, I'm going to vote in the primary for none of the above or none of these candidates, and then I'm going to caucus for President Trump on Thursday. But he didn't really push it. And when Trump did his own rally, he said, don't vote in that primary, which I remarked that was a mistake. He should have said, go vote in the primary. Vote for none of these candidates and come caucus for me on Thursday. So that was organic. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It shows you how much these people love him. Even in a caucus where it's supposed to be the party stalwart. Right. 10 years ago, the party stalwart would have gave him a hard time. Even the LDS heavy counties, 2 of which voted for Cruz in 2016, voted for Donald Trump, not only overwhelmingly, but they showed up. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Turnout in Clark was down about 20% or so. That's from 2016. That's what caused falling just below the total 2016 number. And in some other places that was the case too. But again, in the LDS counties and the rural counties, they were actually up. Esmeralda voted. What are we at right now with Esmeralda? Let me just take a look at it real quick. 77 votes. Maybe there's like 2 ballots they didn't count. But that was already above. It was already 10% higher. Esmeralda only cast about 70 votes in 2016, I believe. Anyway, we can talk about this more in a lot more. We can talk about this in a lot more detail. I want to bring on my guest on White Pine, by the way, another great example. County like White Pine cast like 22% more. I'd have to go and look at the final number. That's big turnout. So Nevada showed up for Donald Trump. And again, Nimrata has been humiliated in Nevada. All right. I want to bring on Daniel. I see his grin in the queue. I know people love that one. Oh man, Daniel, thanks so much for coming on. I'm like really dying to get into the special counsel report here because of your message. But let me just get your overall opinion on what you think. Like, what I know you heard, you were in the queue. Your overall opinion, I know, from just a person's perspective. Like, this is crazy. Every record we've been in, every state we've been in, he's breaking records. This is nuts. And he ran up essentially unopposed. Let's be real. Last night.
Yeah, and the thing that people like Nikki Haley were hoping for, which was as people get out of the race, as DeSantis gets out, as Ramaswamy gets out, as Asa Hutchinson gets out, and all these people get out, that the vote's going to coalesce behind whoever other than Trump remains. That's proven to be completely untrue or completely inaccurate, I guess. I think the more people bail on the Republican GOP nomination, the more Trump picks up support. That's what it looks like to me. So, I mean, at this point, Nikki Haley appears to be a version of Chris Christie. Like I can't prove this. I don't know this. But my supposition is that somebody's bankrolling her just to be a burr under Trump's saddle and try to impair his ability to win in the fall.
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually can. I've seen, people just, they leaked them to me. I got an email filled with several of their campaign correspondents, and they are absolutely coordinating or colluding, let's use the colluding word,
Yeah.
with Democratic donors from Silicon Valley. Reid Hoffman's out now, but they welcomed him. And she just got another about 2 weeks ago, not even. She got a $200,000 injection from this. I forgot his name. I'd have to go look it up in my email, but I saw the name in the email and I checked it. And by the way, boom, there it was in the filing. He's like some radical green nutcase. He had, if I mentioned the company, I remember thinking to myself, I didn't really know who he was, but then he was the head of this company and you would all recognize it. And I'm like, oh God, for the love of God. So the idea was to get all these Democrats to vote and screw up Republicans. Yeah. I mean, she's doing this to hurt at this point to hurt Republicans. And I don't know how her future in the party remains, because people are going to be mad. I mean, there's got to be enemies at the end of this thing. And she's just trying to sabotage Trump, but at the same time, she's going to sabotage Republicans too. I just want to tell people, I mean, listen, it's the website's DanielRstreet.com, right? With the R, with your middle.
That's correct.
Yeah. DanielRstreet.com, DanielRstreet.com. Go check out his books, which are behind him right now. They're excellent. But I want to get your, when I see things like this, and I know I don't know how much time you got, but I got time. We'll talk about the Supreme Court. But what I wanted to talk to you about was what you sent me the message about, because when I see things like this, it pisses me off so much, Daniel. I've seen mob bosses trotted in court with oxygen masks on their face. I saw a man who, he's a piece of, who cares? Have a heart attack. He was a father of a guy who was a white supremacist, and it was like one of the last hangings. He died in a retrial because they couldn't get the first verdict. They brought him back, on the verge of death, and he literally dropped dead in the courtroom. So, this idea that Joe Biden cannot stand trial because of his mental fitness, I'm just going to give you the floor and run with it. But this stuff, to me, is the stuff of nightmares. God, what would Cicero say? Like, what would these people? I don't even. Go ahead. I'll give you the floor.
Well, thank you. Well, look, I have to tell you, I've never seen anything like it. How many times do I say that, though, in the Trump era? The reality is that the special counsel's report on Joe Biden's mishandling of classified information really outlines ultimately decades of reckless mishandling of national security information, defense information, and classified documents. Joe Biden had classified documents from his time in the U.S. Senate in 1970s and 80s, according to the special counsel. He had he lost, according to the special counsel, he lost several briefing books where national security briefings would be given to him, and he would take the books when he was vice president and leave with them, and they disappeared. And the special counsel was unable to determine, according to his report, what happened to some of these documents and some of these briefing books. So we're talking about, we got staff members, we've got Obama administration people coming in and giving specific briefings to Joe Biden saying, hey, you have to handle classified information and classified documents in a certain way that you're not doing. So we're talking about a pattern or practice of recklessness. And this special counsel, we refer to as declination reasons, which is reasons why they're declining to prosecute Joe Biden. And it boils down to really their claim that, well, Joe Biden's mental acuity has declined so much and his memory so poor that we don't think a jury would find the mental element of willfulness was in existence in most of this conduct. And the problem with that is, okay, if you want to make that's a guess, but they could present this to the grand jury and let a grand jury tell them thumbs up or thumbs down. And that's what grand juries are for. But they're not even going to do that. So when they tell you, well, we're going to non-prosecute this, what they're really telling us, we're not even going to let a grand jury see all this to see what the grand jury thinks ought to be done here. And what really, really offends me the most out of all of this is President Trump didn't get any treatment like that in the various different federal and state prosecutions that are
Right.
being pursued against him. So it's a two-tiered system of justice. Everybody in America knows that. This is more proof of it.
And it's also, there's two things. I think one we knew, which is that, like you said, some of the documents that he had and lost, I mean, go back further than even his time as vice president. So there was the argument that, you know what, Trump was the president, and the president has the sole power to declassify. Nobody can tell him what is and what is not classified. Biden didn't have that power, but people would say, well, he was vice president, and he could have talked it over with Obama, and that's just how things go when you're practicing the the administration of government in the executive branch, in the executive building. And that's one thing, but of course that turned out to not even be true because of what you just said. And then the second part was the sheer volume, Daniel, compared to what they're claiming for Donald Trump, and they charged him with in the Mar-a-Lago case. The sheer volume blows anything Donald Trump brought home out of the water. I mean, I couldn't believe it, because there are different classifications, but of course, those that are secret, top secret, I mean, just the volume was just ridiculous. And again, like you said, nobody would have given that benefit of the doubt to Donald Trump, period.
No, and in fact, according to the appendix to the special counsel's report, we're talking about over 300 documents.
Yep.
The 300 separate documents, and some of them are lengthy documents. Some of them are briefing books. Some of them are notebooks. And what's really ironic is to see in the special counsel's report on this Biden matter, to see the special counsel use the Public Records Act as a basis for the non-prosecution decision. Say, hey, the Public Records Act arguably lets the vice president retain this material even if it's classified. Well, that's a similar argument to what President Trump's been making in the Florida case. And of course, that didn't stop any prosecution decisions in Florida. And of course, President Trump also has a much stronger, much better Presidential Records Act claim, because he's the one who decides under the Presidential Records Act what is or is not a presidential record and what's a personal record. So I'm reading this in the special counsel's report for Joe Biden, and I feel like I'm living in an alternate universe. They use the Presidential Records Act to non-prosecute Biden, and they act like it doesn't exist when they go to prosecute Donald Trump. It is, like in the message I sent you, my father and I practiced
almost
law together.
100 years combined between the two.
It's good. Don't remind me.
No, but it's a big deal, because it's like, that spans a long time, Daniel. You've seen a lot. I mean, you and your father, you have seen a lot. And then
it's 88 years of law practice between the two of us. And my dad was in the judge advocate general corps in the Army. Also, he's an Army lawyer. We were talking about it yesterday, and we were both like, look, the Democrats and the Biden regime have utterly corrupted the federal law enforcement, and unfortunately, to a large extent, it goes beyond the Biden years of the Biden regime, but also to a significant extent, the federal judiciary, I'm sad to say. So it's just a terrible situation. This is, and what even makes it worse? All the horrible things that Joe Biden has said about Donald Trump with respect to this classified document thing, and how, it's just utterly irresponsible, Joe Biden said about President Trump, how he handled classified documents.
How could you do that? How could you do that?
President Trump's not even accused of mishandling classified documents to the extent that Joe Biden did, and Biden's not even getting presented to a grand jury, much less, they could present this to a grand jury and get either a true or a no true bill. No true means the grand jury says, we don't think there's been a crime here. True bill means we think there has been a crime. They could do that and still non-prosecute the guy.
Right.
But they don't want, my opinion is,
they didn't even do it.
They don't want a grand jury indictment coming back, but And obviously they can't prosecute Biden right now because he's in the White House. But I'm going to make a little prognostication so we can write it down.
I think I know where you're going with this because of a conversation. But go ahead.
Yeah, let's write it down and we'll see if I'm right. Because this is just the special counsel's decision, and if there's another Trump administration, if Trump wins in November, his DOJ would have the opportunity to indict and prosecute Joe Biden if he wanted to. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but he could. It could happen. And I will bet my bottom dollar right now, if that does happen, Joe Biden's defense team will defend that case by claiming that Joe Biden does not have the mental faculties to assist in his defense of the case, which the Constitution requires.
Absolutely, positively, they would do that.
That's what they'll do.
I think that, because I do want to get into it was really just a broader part of this lawfare effort to take down Trump. I mean, one finally faced the Supreme Court justices last night, or yesterday, excuse me. Yeah. And I want to get to that real quick, but I got to stress that that's a prediction for the ages. That's going to come true because
we'll see if that pans out or not.
Because I don't know whomever Donald Trump, whether it's John Ratcliffe or somebody like Mike Davis would never get through a Senate confirmation. So their MSNBC's all over him as if Donald Trump would be able to nominate him. They wouldn't, which is sad because Mike Davis should be able to get through a Senate confirmation. He should. I mean, compared to with the people that we have right now, look at Merrick Garland. He was supposed to be this is another thing. That man was sold to us as a moderate. Do you remember when Barack Obama nominated him to the Supreme Court and Mitch McConnell said, I think, look, we got a presidential election right around the corner. I think the voters should be able to decide who's going to fill that seat. And by the way, it was a huge decision among many people who really didn't like Donald Trump, who leaned to the right. It was a big part of their calculus. Among those who said, I'm voting because of that seat, Donald Trump won, and he won pretty significantly. But those demographics weren't people who were really that favorable to him. So they were thinking about that. They had that in mind. So now fast forward, because Donald Trump, of course, put 3 justices on the Supreme Court. Think about how liberal this court would be if Hillary Clinton had won, with Merrick Garland being sold to us as a moderate. The guy is, I don't even know if that he's particularly ideological. I just think, Daniel, he's a pushover and a hack, and he'll do whatever he's got to do because he's a political animal. And that's it. But now we had, Amy Coney Barrett was the last one. Of course, before that, Brett Kavanaugh and Justice Neil Gorsuch. But yesterday, when Murray, and I keep forgetting her name, and the other lawyer for Colorado made their way to oral arguments at the Supreme Court, it was remarkably the left-wing justices, even when Ketanji Jackson got her bearing, because it sounded like she was a little lost at first, but when she got her bearing, she peppered them with some of what I thought were the toughest questions. If you really understand the law, I'm not a lawyer, but I understand the statute. I mean, you could read it. And I also, I love history. I understand, I think, the intent of that statute better than most people who think they're experts on Twitter. But she was really, it's been a big 14th Amendment due process has been a big deal for her, Daniel, in her career. And she just kept hammering at that 14th Amendment, but due process. And the word president is not there. She kept saying, this is don't you think this adds ambiguity? And if it does, why would we side with you in ambiguity over democracy? Like that, I just couldn't. But I honestly think that Roberts is going to want a 9-0 on this one. But I want to get your thoughts on this, how the oral arguments went, and what you think. What were key points there?
Yeah, well, I thought the oral argument before the United States Supreme Court yesterday on the Colorado disqualification case went as egregiously as it could possibly have gone for the parties defending the Colorado Supreme Court's decision. And I have to tell you, I didn't expect. I expected the court to reverse the thing. I expected the court, or a clear majority of the court, to be very skeptical about everything. But I didn't expect every justice on the court to take the people defending the Colorado Supreme Court to task. But that's what happened. And, you know, Justice Kagan, who's one of the more liberal justices, she asked some very pointed questions of Mr. Murray about, you know, why should Colorado get to make this decision for the rest of the country? And then Justice Jackson pressed both of the lawyers that argued to defend the judgment of the Colorado Supreme Court about the president and vice president not being listed in the article in Article 3 of the 14th Amendment. So every single justice just really took the case to task, the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to task. And a couple of times it got a little bit testy. You know, Justice Gorsuch, he was asking questions of Murray, and Murray actually, if I recall correctly, clerked for Judge Gorsuch when Justice Gorsuch was on the 10th Circuit.
Yep.
And he says, quit changing my hypothetical. That's not going to help you, you know? And it was, I got to tell you, I've been a court watcher even before I became a lawyer. And that was the most one-sided oral argument that I remember.
Wow.
It was a bad display for the Colorado case. You know, and I put in my Substack article about that, Rich, when the Supreme Court took that case, I said the Colorado Supreme Court's about to get its comeuppance. I mean, it's going to be a rebuke from the Supreme Court, and it's probably going to be unanimous. If it's not unanimous, 8-1, it's going to be just a sledgehammer, and they'll put to rest all of that nonsense trying to disqualify President Trump from the ballot.
Yeah, Andrew Weissman was effectively crying on MSNBC. He was. I mean, you could see these people were like holding back tears. The CBS political analyst afterwards, she's like, "Look, I've been watching the court for decades. You don't ever want to try to like get ahead of them, and think, you know, it can be bad to try to predict what the Supreme Court's going to do. It could be a trap." She said, but she just said basically what you just said. I've never seen a one-sided, a team get eviscerated like this at the court. And she said, I really think this would be unanimous because, you know, Roberts, who cares about the institution and his name in the court, he's going to go back there and he's going to say, this is Pandora's box. You all know it. We have to do this with one voice and one, whomever it is. And it seems like, I'm curious if you think Sotomayor would be the one vote, because I think Jackson was pointed. I think she started out wanting to buy Colorado's case. And then as she thought about it herself, and Kavanaugh, I mean, I've never seen like Jackson is all the way on the left side of the bench, Daniel, and then like her and Kavanaugh bouncing off of each other like that. You know, you just don't do it. Normally they totally disagree with each other and their line of questioning is different from each other. She was like, you know what? No, you know, going back to what the Justice Kavanaugh said, that, you know, you really didn't answer that. And without that, you're leaving us with a hard thing to do here. I've just never seen that. And then one thing really concerned me though, because I think Murray gave it away. Jackson asked him, what happens if we don't give you this ruling? What happens to this case? And he said, does it go away? And he said, you know what? I think it does. This case and the other ones, Maine, you have your crap over there. I think that for now, that's it. But then the House of Representatives will deny Donald Trump the electoral votes, so they won't certify his electoral votes. And I'm thinking to myself, like you just said, the special counsel actually use the reason they're prosecuting Donald Trump as a reason for why they're not going to prosecute Biden. They actually use the same logic. And here's Murray telling the Supreme Court, Donald Trump engaged in an insurrection, and if you don't give me my ruling, we're going to engage in an insurrection. That's what he is saying. And then Jamie Raskin goes on MSNBC and says, we need to take the House so we can deny Donald Trump the electoral votes. I'm like you said, you feel like you're in the Twilight Zone or whatever. Like this is, or an alternate universe. These people don't care about standards at all, Daniel. This is really, really concerning and scary. It's a scary time to be in.
It is. And the one thing that both Representative Raskin and perhaps Mr. Murray need to keep in mind, it's the current House that will vote on that. So,
that's true. Wait a minute. What are you talking about?
It won't help them if they take it back, because the vote would be on January 6th before all the new ones take office. So
He may have meant that New York seat next Tuesday, which Republicans are down in. I mean, they throw out. And listen, I'm not saying I'm a big fan of George Santos, but they throw out George Santos. Bob Menendez is still in the Senate. They haven't expelled him, Daniel. And they have this bare majority, which they're going to lose if this keeps up. I mean, but she's down to the Democrat by 4. That's a district Santos carried by 8. So that's a swing of 12 points. Biden carried it by just under 9. And now Donald Trump leads by 5.
Right.
So,
wow.
It's like so frustrating. It's so frustrating that they don't see it. You know,
the entire party's running 7, 8, 10 points behind Trump.
Awful.
He's the problem. They think he's the problem.
They think he's the problem. Another poll just came out before, by the way, was Democrat +1 on the generic ballot and Trump +4 nationally. So that's 5 points. That's another one. That's a 5-point difference. And by the way, it's really worse than that, because in most of these polls, Trump's level of support is higher. And the only reason why it's Democrat +1, 45 to 44, whereas Trump's up by 5, 49 to 44, so the level of support matters too. It matters a lot more. I always argue the level matters more than the margin, frankly, because you have to get to that magic 50. And that's what, that's the name of the game. And that's when it gets statistically significant. So, they have these double standards. I got to ask you this, because I know when the very first Allen Bragg indictment came, I had you, speaking of Mike Davis, I had you and Mike Davis on, and you guys both agreed that until Republicans start fighting fire with fire, they're not going to stop this. So the immunity case goes before the Court of Appeals. They deny it. And I'm thinking to myself, here's a Republican attorney general in the state of Virginia. The precedent doesn't matter anymore. So the rationale, the executive order rationale of imminent threat that they used to exonerate Barack Obama of murder when he killed Anwar al-Awlaki and his 14-year-old cousin, who had nothing to do with it, sitting in the seat next to him in the truck. Who the hell cares? Who cares about that Justice Department? It's not even a ruling. It was like a memo by the Justice Department. Who the hell cares? Why doesn't the Republican Attorney General in the state of Virginia indict and arrest Barack Obama for the murder of Anwar al-Awlaki, who is a U.S. citizen? I don't give a damn if he was a terrorist. He should have been arrested and tried, because guess what? They call all of us terrorists every day now, Daniel. So hold on, man. All right. I don't want to get droned, We should be arrested. And Republican attorney generals should be finding opportunities like this. So if, Barack Obama doesn't have immunity and all this, they thought was crazy during all arguments, then fine. And by the way, since Jack Smith can charge Donald Trump and try him in any district he wants, even though it's not the appropriate district, then I wouldn't try him in Northern Virginia. I'd drag his ass to the Shenandoah Valley and try him in front of a bunch of Trumpers and fry him. That's what I would do. I'm serious. What do you think about this? Because they're not doing it. They're just, you got Ken Paxton. He's just fantastic. But most of the other attorney general, they're not playing the same game, brother. They're not.
No, they're not. And they really, by all indications, don't plan to.
Yep.
We've said that. Look, it's unfortunate. Let me preface my remarks here by saying that this is not the commentary that I want to make.
Of course, I agree.
Simple fact of the matter is that the Democrats have figured out that they can use the criminal law as a club and charge. They've been charging people all over the whole country. They charge not just Trump. Look at what was done in Georgia with that indictment. There's 20 people charged in that indictment. Then you've got the alternate slates of electors who've been charged in Michigan and Georgia. There's a couple other states where I think Wisconsin, they did some sort of administrative complaint against the alternate electors. So this effort's being not just directed at Trump, it's directed at the Republican Party to a large degree. And the simple fact of the matter is, in my opinion, until Republican attorneys general and Republican prosecutors start doing the same thing, then the Democrats are not going to stop. And let's keep this in mind. The New York, the Manhattan charges against President Trump, that indictment, that's by a local district attorney in Manhattan.
Yeah.
The charges in Georgia are by the Fulton County District Attorney. It's the equivalent of the district attorney here where I live indicting Joe Biden.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, my thought is surely we have a few Republican, you would think we have a few Republican district attorneys in jurisdictions where some of these big Democrats have business to tend to, where they could make bring some indictments. But that's literally what the Democrats did. And we know now that they actually coordinated, at least with respect. Well, no, we know both in New York and in Georgia, they coordinated with the Biden regime. In fact, for the New York case, the DOJ sent some lawyers up there to work with the Manhattan district attorney. So, I mean, it was an orchestrated event or series of events done by the Democrats through the Biden regime to get all of these charges made. So until Republicans turn the tables on the Democrats and start returning the favor and indicting a bunch of people who are muckety mucks in the Democrat Party, this isn't going to stop. I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, I just want to second what you said. Nobody wants to say this. Nobody wants to give commentary that we should all have these tit for tat political persecutions. But until they feel at risk, it's never going to end. It's never going to end. And it's not going to end with Donald Trump. This is the thing. Like, if people weren't listening to the oral arguments before the Supreme Court, Colorado has thrown Republicans off the ballot for ridiculous things in the past. One, yes, was because that person was not a natural born citizen. And that's the case that she kept trying to run to when, by the way, he did too. And of course, that's when he tried doing the same in another case, which wasn't that case. And that's Gorsuch was like, stop with the changing the hypotheticals. He was getting pissed because. And by the way, we've seen this in Washington State has thrown Republicans off the ballot. I think Oregon has thrown Republicans off the ballot. This is
Oregon.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, Democrats have a long history of doing this. They threw Lincoln off the ballot, and then fast forward. I actually thought that was the last time. It wasn't. They went. It's just that we don't pay attention to this because nobody cares about Dixiecrats. But Democrats also moved to throw Strom Thurmond off the ballot. And so, but it's just raw political power moves. You can, at that time, it had nothing to do with their, them trying to reject racism or anything like that. It had nothing to do with that. They were the racist party back then. There's no, they were mad that Strom Thurmond was going to pull votes away from that. He was going to pull racist black belt votes away from them. That's what they were mad about. So yeah, I mean, this is something they've done for a long time. Republicans have never reciprocated, never. And it's not just a new phenomenon. This goes back, but then again, Republican Party during the era of Lincoln was that I'll give them. They were fighters back then, Daniel. I mean, they fought like hell and dirty sometimes, but at least they fought, and now they're just not. They're just pushovers and weak. And like you said, this could be just like your local, your local district attorney could do something. They're not doing it. So because there's so much out there. So the body of evidence is so huge. Hunter, him, his brother Jim. There's so much evidence out there. Somebody could have charged him already. I mean, this is there's so much public evidence. Forget about needing to go into this deep investigation.
Yeah, and these charges don't have to be specifically against Joe Biden for that matter, or even I mean, what I'm talking about needs to be done is just attacking the Washington Democrat establishment. That's what's going to, because that's who's ultimately behind all of this. Yes. And talking about the aggressive takes that the Democrats take. Well, you remember a year or two ago, when the Democrats in Texas, the Texas state legislature, were not showing up in the legislature to try to prevent a quorum from being held so that the legislature could pass some laws that the Democrats didn't like. And the Democrats in Washington had a big reception for these Texas state Democrat legislators and treated them like heroes for not going and doing their job. Those people eventually go back to Texas, and Texas gets to take care of their business. And then when Republicans more recently in Oregon tried to do or did something similar, you'll see Oregon court
right.
last week
Just last
disqualified.
week. Yep.
Disqualified 10 Republicans. I think it was 10 from running for re-election because they didn't tend to their business and tried to prevent the legislature from having a quorum. So you can see the two different ways the Democrats handle that.
Yeah, and I think it was that, and some were, now I think it was like 2 who weren't going to run anyway again, but others who were, and now they're forced not. They can't. They just can't. So, by the way, just recently, apparently Jack Smith just filed a motion in front of Judge Cannon to reconsider her order to unseal, saying her ruling applied the wrong legal standard, contains clear error, and would result in manifest justice. I don't know where these people come up with this stuff. What do you think of that real quick before? And actually, you know what? If you want, I can give you like some more of what he wrote, but that's what if I appeal this to the 11th Circuit, they're going to reverse your ruling if you don't do it now. You believe this guy?
Yeah. Well, the problem that we have is from a legal commentator's perspective is what's going on down in the Florida case currently. It's all pursuant to the Classified Information Procedure Act, which is a federal law that lays out a rather complex protocol for how cases involving classified material have to be handled moving forward, towards the prosecution or during the prosecution. And so we don't really get to see, it's all sealed. We don't get to see exactly what they're talking about. We get these little blurbs. So it's really hard to comment as to whether, Judge Cannon, her order that was earlier, I believe either earlier this week or it may have been at the end of last week, about unsealing some of these documents. It's really impossible for me to comment on. I went through and looked at the docket to see what more I could glean. And it's all under seal. So we'll have to see. I don't know that we'll ever really be able to read it completely enough to know what the ins and outs are, unless and until, and of course, keep in mind, if the special counsel disagrees with Judge Cannon's ruling, he has the right under the Classified Information Procedure Act to immediately get that reviewed by the Court of Appeal. So if the Court of Appeal says, no, the judge was right about that, then we'll get to see what they were trying to hide, or what they were trying to keep concealed. I will say, if it's anything like what the government has done throughout the case and even before, throughout the entire Trump era, when eventually documents would be declassified, and then you'd have documents that were released with redactions. And this goes all through the whole Russia collusion thing and everything else. And ultimately, when we would get the documents without the redactions, or they would get declassified, you'd see that most of the classification most of the classified classifications were done by the government to CYA for somebody, as opposed to protecting national security. So I have no reason to believe that they're conducting themselves in a different fashion in this Florida case.
Yeah, just one thing I'll give you before I let you go. This is in honor of you. I don't know if you saw this. I would run the clip, but it's like 2 minutes long. Actor Michael Rapaport admitted that he was duped by the media. He called let me give you his quote, because this is like right up your alley. The very fine people hoax. I was wrong. When you see the quote, that's not what he said. And he goes on to say the lying media. Basically, I'm going to tell you right now, I won't vote. I'm not voting for Biden. I'm not voting for Kamala. Gavin, I just left California. I'm not voting for Gavin with the good hair. I'm not a sucker. So the work you do, Daniel, is just so important. And for people who don't know what I'm talking about, the books behind Daniel are just fantastic. And he's got this comprehensive, list. I mean, because you're a lawyer, you write it so well, because you're making like your case. You're just laying out the evidence. It's so good. And the media is just a bunch of liars. They are dangerous. They're liars to the point of being dangerous. I put the blame for the shooting of Steve Scalise and 4 others squarely at their feet. I'm not going to use his name, but before the FBI made Facebook take down that page, we screenshotted it. It's on People's Pundit Daily. You can read all about it. That guy shot Steve Scalise because he believed that all of these lies that, you know, Michael Rapaport's addressing and then you address in your books. And again, folks, it's DanielRstreet.com. You got to check it out. He's got 3 volumes, and I forget this stuff. Like, this is what I always say about Daniel's books. We all know the big ones, the Very Fine People hoax, you know, Russia collusion. We all know the big ones. Daniel's got the receipts, not only of those main narratives, but other things you forgot about. And then all of the bull that they use to prop up those narratives. You believe me, you forgot how many stories they ran in support of these BS, you know, lies. Sure. So here you have Michael Rapaport, Daniel, saying they lied to me. I mean, so just the work you do is just so critical, man. It really is.
I appreciate that. And if I could put a little plug in real quick, I appreciate your kind words. But your audience can go to my website at DanielRstreet.com, and they can get a free digital. I mean, they can get a Kindle, a PDF, EPUB, whatever version of my most recent book, or they can get the audio book for free at the website. And that's the most recent book that has the misinformation breakdowns about COVID and immigration, and a couple of chapters are about Governor DeSantis, lies told about him. They can get it for free, and my Substack's free also. I've got an article I'm working on this weekend. I hope to complete about the special counsel's report on the Biden classified documents case. It's, look, the problem we get is some of this is so complex, it's so convoluted, and I try to break it down and make it to where just, an ordinary person, a plumber or a teacher or so could just read it and go, what's this about? It is not easy to do, but it's a lot more fun than practicing law. So, but it's free. My Substack's free. So I'm working on that this weekend. And if people will sign up for the Substack, they'll see, because books get kind of timed out by the time they're published, and you can't put new things and breaking news in it. The Substack lets me address the things that are going on now. And that's what I use it for. So,
yeah. And I read it. And when that's done, I'll read that one. I'll share it. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. But go get those. But I like I like a hardcover or a paperback. I got your book on my end table right now. Still, I have your book along with 2 others are on my end table right now. And
thank you.
It's just fantastic because you could always go back and refer to it. And when how this stuff matters, how bad the media lies to us, Daniel, because this is the media that told us in 2020 that Joe Biden was totally fine and Vladimir Putin's going to die of cancer soon. And then you have on display last night the difference between each other. And you have a senile, angry old man who, by the way, according to the Washington Post, that's another lie, that he's ever was a decent man. He's always been a prick, a nasty prick. Joe Biden has never been a nice man. And he flipped out on Democrats in a closed-door meeting yesterday. And apparently, what did he do to them? The same thing he does to us. Went on and on about Beau Biden dying on that day and blah, blah, blah. So you try to question his fitness. Hey, what's up with this special counsel report? You did do this. And oh, by the way, he says you're not even capable of continuing an interview with an investigator because you can't remember, what shoes you're wearing right now. Or
what year it is.
What year it is. What year it was. Laura's clapping in the other room. I can hear it, but it's true.
Well, and Rich, look, the thing about it that's really so frustrating is the media. If we had a decent media, if we had a media that just called balls and strikes, told it like it was, none of these things would happen. President Trump would not be prosecuted right now because the Democrats would get excoriated by the media and they would quit. But instead, just pull up the headlines about the special counsel report and see how many times fake news media said yesterday that Joe Biden was exonerated. He wasn't exonerated. He wasn't even close to exonerated. He was given a pass. And some of them did report on it accurately. But
the New York Times, they did the Republicans pounce gambit. That's what they did.
Yeah.
Republicans pounce on special report findings. What are you talking about? You're a journalist. You should be pouncing on it.
They should pounce. I know.
And by the way, Daniel, when it comes to the, again, the lies that they until we'd be in the second term of a Trump administration, there would be no mass deaths in Eastern Europe. The Abraham Accords would have held. The Palestinians would have been further isolated. Maybe we would have a deal with Kim Jong-un right now. I mean, the world would be a totally different place. Gas would be $1.95. I mean, the world would be a totally different place. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So I don't like when he says they're the enemy of the people and they flip out and they can't stand it. Well, what are you? Because you sure as hell ain't my friend. Like, what are you then? So if you're the opposite of a friend, you're my enemy. I don't know what else to call it.
I've got a whole chapter in volume 1 of Fake News Exposed about Trump about that issue. And they can't even tell the truth about that. President Trump says that the fake news media is the enemy of the people. Yeah. And to try to turn it, because everybody thinks fake news and people peddling it are the enemy, the media, the fake news media says that wrongfully and incorrectly that President Trump says the media is the enemy of the people. And that's not even what the man says. These people can't, we can sit here all day and talk about lies that the media tells about Trump. But I think the bigger issue, and it's not just about Trump, it's if you believe in the gospel of Jesus, if you believe in the Second Amendment, if you believe in states' rights, if you believe in self-determination and rugged individualism, they're going to lie about you too. But what people don't realize is that the media and their willingness to lie and their willingness to carry water for the people attacking the institutions in this country, and that's the Democrats and the Biden regime, is why it happens. If they told the truth, if the media would call balls and strikes and tell the truth, 90% of what we're talking about, whether it's transgender lunacy or prosecutions of political opposition, weaponizing the IRS, none of that would happen if the media just told the truth.
That's so profound. That is the power they still have. Yes, they've lost trust and they lost power over the years, but Daniel is so correct, folks. That is the power they have. And I'm telling you, if they just call balls and strikes, I mean, Trump would be up by 10 points right now. It would be a double-digit popular vote win, but this is the role they still see themselves playing. And by the way, and last thing I'll let you go, but I'm listening to the oral arguments yesterday, and I'm thinking about stuff that all other people had written, and then all the op-eds, from people who were saying that this is nonsense, and then all the op-eds in the Washington Post and in the New York Times by so-called, by the way, right-wing scholars from the Federalist Society, who are not right-wing, by the way, made a fool of themselves. Made a total fool of themselves defending this case. There is one, Laura's binging me because there is one question that's for you that I can't answer if I let you go on the Q&A.
Sure. Go ahead.
Can you ask Daniel about the Supreme Court, the immunity case, the odds of that? And I did. That was on my list of things to ask you because, I'm listening to the justices and they seem to really understand that the presidency has to survive when Donald Trump is gone. Like, you cannot eviscerate the presidency because you don't like Donald Trump. And they seemed very acutely aware of that yesterday. So what do you think? What do you, I know it's hard to predict what these guys are going to do, but what do you think?
What was the question, Rich?
What do you think about, what are the odds of the immunity case? So he's now going to have to bring that immunity case because Trump lost in the Court of Appeals. They said he didn't have immunity. What do you think now after hearing some of the concerns the Supreme Court raised about preserving the presidency? What do you think the odds are that they'll rule in favor of Trump after hearing that yesterday? I don't know, it's a totally different case, but
Yeah. Look, I got to tell you, the presidential immunity case is a much closer case, if you will, than the Colorado disqualification case. The Colorado disqualification case is off the rails. The presidential immunity case actually involves two separate issues that were raised by President Trump in his motion to dismiss. One is the presidential immunity issue, and the other is the impeachment clause double jeopardy issue. So this is my personal opinion. I actually think President Trump has a better chance with the Supreme Court on the impeachment clause double jeopardy issue, and I'll be glad to elaborate on that. The presidential immunity issue, first of all, I think the D.C. Circuit is incorrect. D.C. Circuit said that once President Trump leaves office, he's just like an ordinary guy. He has the defenses of an ordinary guy. I think that's ludicrous. The congressmen, senators, the judiciary has immunity.
Right.
And it doesn't end when their terms end. It doesn't end when they resign. I know federal judges have lifetime appointments, but when they retire, their immunity doesn't end. So, that part's wrong. But the challenge, so I expect the Supreme Court ultimately to rule that President Trump and presidents generally do have presidential immunity. The question is going to be whether the conduct at issue is covered by that immunity or not. And that's a little bit different question.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the court, that's where it gets close. You could have a majority of the court that said, hey, there's presidential immunity. Let's nail that down right now. And it doesn't end when the president's term ends, but it's for core functions. And the question was this a core function of the office itself? And that's a closer question. I think President Trump has a better than even chance of winning across the board on that, but it won't be 9-0. And there's a possibility he doesn't win on that. Now, the double jeopardy impeachment clause question, but people have to remember is that the Democrats controlled the United States House of Representatives whenever the election occurred in 2020. So they impeached President Trump again after January 6th, and he was acquitted in the United States Senate.
Right.
Well, the Constitution says that a president, upon conviction on impeachment articles, is removed from office and barred from running for office in the future, or barred from or ineligible to hold office, and also says that if convicted, he's subject to indictment and criminal punishment and other fines and punishment. The problem is, the implication is, if he's not convicted, he's not subject to indictment or other crimes and punishment or fines. And the U.S. Senate acquitted him of the second impeachment, and the second impeachment included, it's almost a mirror image of the charges in the D.C. indictment. There's a couple of distinctions. So I think the president has a very good chance of having the United States Supreme Court say, hey, wait a minute, he got acquitted on this impeachment, and that's for high crimes and misdemeanors, by the way, which means he didn't commit them.
Yeah.
Now you can't prosecute him because the Constitution says he can be prosecuted if he gets convicted on this impeachment. So I don't know that it would knock it all out, but it should, or 90% of it. And then you have the 18 U.S.C. 1512 obstruction of official proceedings, which are two of the charges against Trump. That's already at the Supreme Court on the J6 defendant. They're going to turn that around and wipe all that out. So half the indictment's going to go away anyway.
So
that's my opinion.
And if you listen to Kavanaugh, and he's done this before, I've heard him do this before. He's very concerned about people coming to the court and asking them for a remedy when there's already something that exists, or asking them to affirm the power of someone else, the state, the Justice Department, whatever, when there already is a mechanism. So I guarantee you, he's going to ask, isn't there already a procedure for this? Didn't the Congress impeach him, and didn't the Senate acquit him? I guarantee Justice Kavanaugh is going to say that. He is, because he said something along the lines yesterday of, you already have a mechanism for this. It's called prosecution. But when it comes to the president, that wasn't around. The Justice Department wasn't around, folks, when they wrote these. When they wrote the impeachment clause, that this wasn't around. That was their remedy for a president who was committing crimes. So if you're a textualist like Gorsuch, then I mean, honestly, I don't know how Gorsuch doesn't look at it and say, this is what the founders wanted. They did not want an above all Justice Department making this. We'll see. But he's more of a strict textualist than a right-wing conservative kind of judge. It's not what he is, which could work in Trump's favor on this case.
Yeah, several of the justices on the Supreme Court are really difficult to pigeonhole. Like Justice Gorsuch, most conservatives are very disappointed with a couple of his decisions. The Bostock decision, the McGirt versus Oklahoma. Little did we know that most of Oklahoma is still an Indian reservation, according to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to make sense, and it's hard to pigeonhole people. And I do it. We all do it. I was talking about Justice Kagan and talking about Justice Jackson. Oh, they're the liberal justices, or there are two of them. But their decisions are not always liberal. And then with the conservatives, their decisions are not always conservative either. So we have to be careful about those labels sometimes.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, tell Daniel, you've been the chat loves you. You've been a great guest today, and you made everything make sense to people. Tell everybody where they can follow your work, follow along, and check out your books, which I'll put up on the screen. But tell everybody where they can follow you on social media and everywhere else.
Yeah, the easy way to keep track of what I'm doing is through my website. You can go to danielrstreet.com. So that's danielrstreet.com. There's links to my social media. You can follow me on Twitter, on or X, and Truth Social. There's links to all of my books at Amazon. There's links to my Substack. The Substack's free. Like I already mentioned, you can get the most recent book, the digital version or the audio version, for free at the website. That's the easy way to keep up with what I have going on.
Yeah, you got a nice, clean website, too. Nice, clean website. Substack link, guys, is right there. The free audiobook's right there. Go check it out. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. And I'm not, you know what? You're going to love it, but it is going to anger you a little bit. I mean, there's no doubt.
It will.
It's going to anger you, but it's worth it. It really, really is worth it.
Hey, Rich, I need to start another Substack about happy things, right? Good things.
Here, let me cheer you up after you read my volumes. Let me cheer you up about, well,
That's
because
right.
there could be there's a lot of times when media lied to people and they didn't believe it. They didn't buy it, or they corrected themselves really quickly, So yeah, I thanks so much and you gave us a ton of time, Daniel. Thank you. You gave us almost an hour of your time. I really appreciate it. I know you got things to do. You got a practice to run. So thank you. I really, you're welcome back anytime, brother.
Thanks for having me on. And hey, Rich, thanks for all you do.
Hey, thanks right back at you. I'll see you soon, Daniel.
Okay, thanks.
Go check out the Substack. There's going to be a great one on soon. Daniel Street, ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Street. Let's take, actually, in honor of him, let's take a couple of minutes. I'm going to take a break anyway. Let's take a couple of minutes to listen to Michael Rapaport talk about how he's come to the conclusion the media has duped him. When we come back, we'll do a word from our sponsor, and then we will dive into your Q&A. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Don't forget to like the videos. If you like them, share them far and wide. Hit the notification bell on Rumble and YouTube. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. But the best place to follow us is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. We'll be back in about 3 minutes or so. 3 minutes? Something like that. Ballpark? Yeah, I think it is. Yep. 3 minutes, 25 seconds.
So if you believe in the Obama doctrine, all right, be nice to each other, whatever, there's no way you were voting for Trump. It just wasn't in the cards. It wasn't.
Sorry, I can't help myself. If you believe in the Obama doctrine, be nice to everybody. You mean like get in your neighbor's face and scream at them about Obamacare? That's nice. Get out of here, you total schmuck.
Happening. It was abrasive. He was racist. The media, yada, yada, yada.
And he was a joke. Like New Yorkers, like he was like,
he's a
ball busting troll.
Exactly.
He's a
but
shit
here's
talker.
why I think you're going to vote
that
for
guy
him this time, because you've seen what happened under his first term. You didn't like it. He's the pig dick, and he's got the mean tweets, and he's orange. But life was good. There was no wars. The economy was going good. But damn, he's annoying to look at. But you also can acknowledge that the media had a major role in
a major role in that. When you take a step back.
Yes. You also acknowledge that.
Because I will acknowledge that, that one thing about the Charlottesville that I ranted about.
Yes.
And I was wrong.
But the both sides thing.
Yeah, and I respect so irresponsible.
And I respect the shit out of it. Wait, let me hear him out. Hang on. Yeah. Go a little bit more. What do you mean by that? You were wrong on that.
No, because he said the both sides, there's good people on both sides. And when you see the full quote, that wasn't what he said. And I ranted on him hard for that. Mm-hmm. Hard. There's some video about it, whatever. Yeah. I mean, I ranted hard because I was like, what are you talking about, man?
Because you got played. And here's what this is why I think you're going to vote for Trump. Is because you, much like me, much like many people, independent thinkers, not the sheep, realize we kind of got played a little bit. Yes, Trump ain't exactly the smoothest character. He's not
Jesus Christ.
No, but his policies and who he has around him are way better than what's going on there. And here's my final point. You see what's going on with the border. You see what's going on with the wokeness. You see what's going on with culture wars. And you see what's going on with actual wars.
Yeah.
Specifically, you see who the Democrats have exposed their hand, especially the progressive left. You see what's going on between Israel and Gaza. You have 3 starved David highs on your chest right now.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who is a proud New Yorker your whole life, you see what the Democratic Party has turned into. This DEI, ESG, woke manifestation of ridiculousness, intersectionality, decolonialization. You're looking at that and you say, you know what? As much as I can't stand big dick Donald Trump,
You said it.
at least he's fucking normal. At least he doesn't want to turn my boy into a girl.
At least he's normal.
Well,
But yes.
At least he doesn't want to turn my boy into a girl.
Yeah.
At least he's defending Israel, not the fucking terrorists. And at the end of the day, I'm a reasonable person.
Yeah.
So like you said initially, I think I'm going to consider this.
Oh, I'm considering it.
Yes.
But to pull that, I don't know. We don't pull levers anymore.
Yeah.
Actually pull that lever.
Yeah, but pulling the lever for Biden.
And then
I'm going to tell you right now, I won't vote. I'm not voting for Biden.
No.
I'm not voting for Kamala. I'm not,
but then you can't talk shit. And you need to be able to talk
Well,
shit.
wait a minute. So you're saying, so for you,
I won't vote for them.
so no matter what, that decision is
That ain't
final.
happening.
Okay.
No, I'm not. That's not happening.
Who, what?
for
I'm not
Kamala
voting
and
for
Biden
Kamala. I'm not
Wow.
voting
or
for
anybody.
Biden.
Well, but Mikey, what about
Not
anybody
voting for
else?
them.
What
No,
about
no,
Michael?
listen,
What about anybody
Vinny,
from the
what
left?
he's saying is,
Who?
what he's saying
There's
is,
nobody.
I'm saying like,
Kennedy?
what if Newsom or one of these cats pop up? That's a good-
Gavin? I just left California. I'm not voting for Gavin with the good hair.
I love that. I love that.
Gavin with the good hair,
But
just like
Fuck
Becky.
out of here.
So Mike, here's my thing though. So
I'm not a sucker.
I'm not a sucker, he said. I'm not a sucker. Look, he's a passionate guy, and when you live in his world, it can be tough to separate what is real and what is not. And I got to tell you, I had a friend. All right, and Laura's gonna know. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to blow him up, but I had a friend. He was this might blow him up, but oh well. He was a cop, and his daughter was friends with my daughter, and it was during the whole Michael Brown thing, and you wanted them to like have a better opinion in the community. So he was a good-looking guy, really good-looking guy. All right, look, I'm comfortable enough in my sexuality to say this was a friggin' dreamy-looking guy. Anyway, he does this calendar with the cops and firemen. And again, he's a good-looking guy. It blows up and goes viral. He winds up getting all these calls from Hollywood. We want you to do Survivor. We want you to do Dancing with the Stars. We want you to do this. So he gives up his life as a police officer to go for Hollywood. I'm on this Hollywood blacklist. That little turd, Will from Stand By Me, that movie. He's only done like one movie in his entire life. I don't even know this little shit. And the only reason why anybody watched that movie is because Richard Dreyfuss and River Phoenix were in it. And anyway, he's like the lead dude in it. He's supposed to be Richard Dreyfuss as a kid. He put me on this like Hollywood ban list. John Cusack. I've never even spoken to the guy. He's like talks all kind of crap and bans me. That guy is supposed to be John Favreau or something. He's supposed to be a comedian. He's like this short, fat little dude. I always thought he was hilarious, but like John talks crap about me. He doesn't even know who the hell I am. I don't know you, John. You want an open hander? Anyway, this little turd Will puts me on this list, and like my friend can't talk to me anymore. Yeah, Will Wheaton. That's his name. Will Wheaton. The PR guy, his public relations dude, we're at a party with the girls. He's like, can't take a picture with me in the picture. Like he can't be seen. Otherwise, he may not get the jobs that he had lined up. You believe this? But that's the world Michael Rapaport lives in, is what I'm trying to explain to you guys. So it's ballsy to do what he's doing. They are under an immense amount of social bias and social pressure and professional pressure. Look what happened to James Woods. Everybody loved James Woods in Hollywood, folks. Michael J. Fox. I mean, Al Pacino. You name it. They loved him. Robert De Niro did that movie with him. Forgot it was back in the 70s. Classic. It's great. They loved James Woods. He comes out as a Trumper. They can't stand him. Who's the other one who I love from National Treasure? He plays Nicolas Cage's father. I'm just not, sometimes I forget people's names, but oh my goodness, how am I forgetting his name? He's a legend. How am I? Angelina Jolie's father, right? Make him a pariah. They make John Voight. They make him a pariah because why? He's a conservative. So it takes a lot for people like Michael Rapaport. It takes a lot for people like 50 Cent to go to his Instagram and say, you know what, I think Trump is the answer. You know, that's some. Now you're a PIMP, bro. All right. Now you're gangsta. All right. So you're not gangsta rolling with everybody else and buckling in social biases. You ain't a pimp. If you you don't know how to bucket to the man. Now you're a pimp, bro. All right. Snoop Dogg, he's at a point in his age where he's just like, up yours. He pardoned my boy from Death Row Records. Up yours. I mean, that's what more of that has to come, because I remember when Trump won in 2016. I remember the invites to Trump Tower and Bedminster. What was that? He's a black comedian. He hosts Family Feud. He brings him down there. A ton of people. The excoriation that they got after leaving Trump Tower, people stopped in accepting the invites. These are people who knew Donald Trump for years. Harvey, thank you. They loved Donald Trump. He himself was a god to these people until he ran as a Republican. He espoused himself any conservative values. He went against the machine. And that's the funny thing. It's like, once upon a time, media and entertainment, maybe not media, but entertainment, especially the arts, whether it's movies or music, is a perfect example. The name of the band is Rage Against the Machine. Well, now they rage for the machine. Now they stooge for the machine. Now they shill for the machine. Look at Guns N' Roses. Axl Rose has always been a lefty, or he says he's a lefty, but I mean, you listen to the guy talk and he sounds like a freaking Republican when you actually listen to him talk. Listen to the song Civil War. It's anti-military industrial complex. That is what they're talking about. Killing Kennedy, the government killing Kennedy. Wake up. These people run the show, and I'm not having it. Now, that's not the way it is. I mean, you're just not going to get a record deal. You're not going to get that role for that. James Woods was blacklisted. Nobody would give him a job. Kevin Sorbo was Hercules, for crying out loud. He came out as a Christian. He ended up relegated to Hallmark and other like faith and family channels. Guys, one of the nicest people you could possibly meet, Kevin Sorbo. I mean, they don't care. Laura's rant. Even if you're a strong woman, there's plenty examples of this. You're a strong woman, you're a strong actress. You come out as a conservative, all of a sudden they don't give a damn about those feminist, causes anymore. You get thrown under the bus. Tammy Bruce, do you know her history? She was the president of that National Women's Organization, that radical feminist. She left them because they went off the friggin' Gina Carano. Great example. They went off the rails. So Tammy's like, you know what? I don't think this has anything to do with women's rights. I think this is left-wing ideology, and that which she agreed with largely in those contexts. And look at Roseanne. Oh my God, Roseanne was celebrated. Her own co-stars threw her under the bus. They tried to go on without her on a show called Roseanne. Unbelievable, right? Caitlyn Jenner. Oh, Caitlyn Jenner was their hero until Caitlyn said, I'm a Trump supporter. Caitlyn Jenner was their hero. Here is an Olympic champion. What everyone thought was a man's man. Transitioning to a woman. Oh, they pounced right on that. Until Caitlyn said things like, I don't think you should transition kids. I don't think you should share certain restrooms. Look, maybe we need our own restrooms. By the way, the economy was better under Donald Trump. I don't want to fight wars everywhere. Naomi Wolf was celebrated in her field. So was Dr. Malone. They thought he was a genius. And they did refer to him as the inventor of mRNA vaccines for years. The social pressure is just enormous. It really is. It really is. All right, let's Oh yeah, somebody said that. I wasn't going to bring that up, but see, they know they're Guns N' Roses. 1 in a million. Immigrants and get out of my way. Well, don't make no sense to me. They come to our country and spread some disease. You remember? Yeah. Where'd that go? And they'll come out and say, oh, you know what? I'm not as ignorant as I was. Okay. No. You are a working class person. You were selling your albums. Exactly, Jonathan. He got banned from Live Aid because he said that. The one was about not the immigrant part, but the disease that he was talking about was AIDS. And he had to make up with Freddie Mercury and everything. And it was this whole big to-do. And because Freddie Mercury, of course, was dying. And there was a tribute to Freddie's death. And, it's the whole thing. Anyway, what did he say? He said nothing that was untrue. I love Slash. No, I don't like Buckethead more than Slash. Slash is my... And by the way, Slash doesn't... I don't want to speak for the man, but he does have some... He's not insane. He's not a left-wing nutcase. And as people get older, it's true. They tend to get more conservative. But Slash is my all-time favorite, I would say, guitarist. And even like songwriter, like guitarist songwriter, I guess I would say. I have an interesting story about him. This guy gave attention to a 19-year-old kid that he just didn't need. Right, Laura? I mean, that's the way to put it. He gave attention to a 19-year-old kid that no famous guitarist at his level does. And he was exceptionally generous to me. I mean, yeah, I don't know how else to say it. All because... And after I hit on his fiance. I kid you not. I tried to pick up Perla in the Stone Pony. I kid you not. Who is now his ex-wife, but I joke you not. Running around on roller skates. I definitely tried to pick up Slash's fiance. And she thought it was cute and funny. And then she brought me to meet him and gave me the red carpet. It was incredible. It really was. So yeah, I'm an idiot, Magoose. I'm an absolute idiot. What are you going to do? I wasn't with Laura at the time, obviously. But yeah, let's take a real quick break. I can tell you that story another time. It's pretty funny. Laura's laughing because it's funny. That's me. She knows who I was. No illusions. She's got no illusions. But also it's funny that like she's let me down so easy, I have no fear whatsoever. All right, let's do a real quick one from Jen. No, nobody intimidated me. If pretty women intimidated me, then I would never be married to Laura. That's the truth. She was so beautiful. Kids were terrified when we were kids. Terrified of her. Because she was just so pretty. It's hard to... You guys know what I'm talking. Don't BS yourselves. There's a point when a girl, there's like pretty, and then there's wow. And you're afraid, I never had that fear because I'm an idiot. And my mind works like the way it still does today. And I'm like, it's the numbers game. No, you know what I mean? Laura's still everyone knows who's met Laura. Laura's absolutely beautiful. That's why I want her to come on camera. I tried to get her to do pictures with me. I thought we could do awesome shots together.
Look at this beautiful picture right here.
You had the best idea for the shots. You just teased me with it. Think about how our election coverage would be with that back-to-back idea. Come on. That would be dope. That would be the dopest election graphic ever.
How about this? If we ever do an event where it's like meet the people's pundit, I'll be present. And then they can meet me too.
I'll tell you what, ADC, it was Perla, and if we have time after questions, I'll tell the story, and Laura can laugh in the background at me.
Oh, this is hysterical, by the way. This story is epic.
Epic
failure, but it was great.
Now we're going to have to go over 2 o'clock so Rich can tell the story about how Slash's wife shot him down. But, yeah. Or it was, again, at that time, it was his fiance. All right, so let's do a real quick break, and then we'll come back and get to your questions. Let's talk about our friends at Jam and Bean. we have a light week this week, so I'm really happy we get to talk more about Jam and Bean. I just got their new care package yesterday. Was chomping on the popcorn during the election coverage. I swear they just keep getting better. But we have all these new flavors of popcorn to try, and they're delicious. Every single one of them, as always. It looks like they're out of Bitto honey, but I'm sure it'll come back in real soon. Listen, though, their coffee is off the chain good, especially if you're like me and you need later in the day, you don't want a dark roast. Sometimes you want but you still like full-bodied coffee. I don't like breakfast blends, things like that. I like full-bodied coffee, and even their medium is full-bodied. It's delicious. It's the perfect coffee for like the afternoon if you don't want a dark roast later on. And of course, they have so many other blends that are amazing, but I'm just telling you that their medium roasts are just dynamite, whether you are buying the K-Cup or you're roasting it yourself. And their teas, Laura and I have been trying their teas down. We've been for a while, but we're really into it now. Laura got a set and everything for us to use to steep. It's awesome. And I'm loving it. So if you sign up for a subscription using the promo code TPP40 at jamandbean.com, you'll get 40% off the initial subscription cost, and you'll still get 10% when the subscription renews every month. All right, so that's what that code is good for. It's great. It's fantastic. Nothing says I love you like bacon. There you go. And we have Valentine's Day right around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget it. All right, again, one more time, jamandbean.com. Use the promo code TPP40. TPP for the People's Pundit, 40 for 40% off. Incredible. And by the way, as always, send us your feedback. We absolutely love to hear it. I'm going to pull up the map because I did see one question. I don't mean to jump all out of turn here. Our caucus, like CNN, is really kind of stunted. I don't know. I haven't gotten word back from Decision Desk on what is going on. The New York Times actually beat us as far as reporting. You didn't see that, Laura, but the API just froze for 2.5 hours. I don't know what's going on, but it's showing 36,000 and change, and Washoe County, it's not showing anything. But that's not why I'm here anyway. Let's look at because of somebody's question, and you have that moron on Twitter who just can't admit he was wrong. So now he's making this case. But you know what about that turnout? Actually, maybe it's not so good. You just can't admit when you're wrong. And it's absolutely pathetic that people do that. But they do. So let me jump to the first question, and then I'll move back around. Somebody, let me see where I can find it first. I think it's down here. Hold on, I'll find it. Was it more to the top, Laura, about turnout? What are you looking for me? What does the turnout say? Oh, I found it. DMM3 and change. I don't know if that's Getter. It looks like it's either Getter or maybe wherever you are, DMM3, quad 4. Yeah, this is your question. Can you ask Rich how Biden performed as an incumbent in Nevada compared to previous years, which goes with somebody else's? And that's what the argument is, that Biden did better. For an incumbent, he did decent. The turnout wasn't fantastic, but for an incumbent, it wasn't bad. He needed to make a statement there, and he did. However, the reason why we really can't compare it to normal cycles is because this is the first year that the state of Nevada moved to a primary system, which is different. Both sides always use the caucus system, which is why this year is confusing with the Republican turnout, and also why the morons who are trying to now cover their tracks and say, well, it wasn't really great turnout for Republicans. That's not going to, 50,000 votes, 60,000 votes is not going to win the state of Nevada. Okay, let me tell you why that guy is a total moron. And just to tie Dim's question in with someone else's question, which is Urishal, I think. The delay, how can Nevada do better in the general, right? No, there was somebody who had asked about what turnout for Nevada was foreshadowing about the general, and that's all right. But here's the reason why you can't listen to guys like that and arguments like that. It is astonishing, first of all, that as of right now, 60,081 came out to caucus on Thursday night. Of those, only 500 did not vote for Donald Trump. He won. He's at, because it's going to go up more a little bit, but he's at 59,545. By the way, right where Robbie and I said he would end up, we were just thinking for a while he could get past 60, and he still could. There may be some vote because I'm looking at Clark County, and they're now just under 30,000. They're not at 29 and change, 29.5. They're at 29,966. So something trickled in. And Washoe may still trickle in too. They're at 12,400, which was like our mid-range estimate. So mid-range, but still a solid estimate. Actually, no, it's 12 and change. Yeah. So in any event, there was also what you see on your screen, however. Tuesday's primary. I know from talking to people came out to vote for Donald Trump and didn't realize that it was a caucus on Thursday, primary on Tuesday. So 76,544 Republicans came out to vote in the primary, and Nimrata only got 20,000, 23,000. And then another 60,000 came out in caucus for Trump on Thursday. My point is this. There is absolutely no way for any of us to know how many of those people who went and voted none of these candidates, or how many of Nikki's would vote for Trump. Most of them probably, but not all of them, but most of them. So we don't know how many came back out on Thursday to caucus for Trump anyway. Could be 50%. But it ain't 100%. Tell you that. So it's not just 60,000. It's 60,000 plus those who were confused and couldn't come back. Of which about 50,000 of them voted for Donald Trump. Huge. How? Because they voted none of these candidates. Those people are for Donald Trump. In normal election cycles, none of these candidates does not get that kind of vote. Even when none of these candidates have won, they have won with like 25 to 30% of the vote. They do not win with majorities. In the 5 times previously that none of these candidates had the most votes since it was instituted in 1975, it has never gotten a majority. This is now the 6th time, and it not only had a majority, it's damn near a super majority. So, it is safe to say we need to take some of that 50,000 that voted for none of these candidates and assume that they would have caucused for Trump if they knew better. So, by that standard, even being conservative, turnout absolutely would have exceeded what was normal and what was even their high, which is just under 75,000. Around 75. I think it's maybe just a little over, actually. So that's the full picture. And you cannot do what this guy is doing. Just admit it, Nevada independent fake election analyst. I don't know. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. Anyway. Trump only got 34,500 and change in 2016, and he damn near beat Hillary Clinton anyway. Things are much different now than 2016, I would argue. And I saw those video clips. Laura, every 5 to 10 people, there was a non-white person waiting in line. Not the usual 10%. No. Look more than that to me. Clover Girl, just a thank you for your hard work and dedication. Thank you, Clover Girl. Anytime, and I will keep it up. Did you hear about Jamie Raskin, Communist House member on MSNBC, saying the Dems will take control of the House and deny Trump? I did, and I brought that up with Daniel Street. But here's the kicker to that, Derek Ann. Here's the kicker. He must mean they're going to take control before the election. They got the special election coming up. Looks like Republicans are going to lose it because they're stupid. Even though it's their district and it's an R+8 district. Why? Because this is the way things are now. First of all, the Republicans who do vote in these low turnout specials are the least Trumpy Republicans out there. They're the most likely to cross over and vote for a Democrat, especially when you have a candidate she would do great in a general, I think, but she would not do great in we're going to see. Maybe I'm wrong, but Siena College has her down by 4, the Republican. And by the way, Trump's up by 5 in that district, Laura, after losing it by almost 9 points. He lost it by 8.5. He's up by 5. Santos won it by 8. The Democrats up by 4. Republicans, telling you, corrupt, crooked, or no, crooked, corrupt, whatever you want to say, cowardly, and clueless. That's what Republicans are. But I don't know how they would get that yet. So, because it's going to be this house that decides that election, not the new house. Rumble from my Rumble account. Your reaction to the based Slavic history professor Putin. Here's my reaction. I'm terrified after watching that interview. I already know that Xi Jinping is a brilliant man. I already knew he was smart. Very shrewd dude, politically and elsewhere. Most of our elected officials are idiots. Right, left, they're stooges. They're dumb. They don't know history. That's why they repeat it all the time. They're stupid. They're not very well informed. Forget about educated. That's not the right word. They're not smart. They're ignorant people. And in many cases, they prove to be stupid because there is a difference between ignorance and stupidity. Ignorance means it insinuates you just don't know better. You haven't learned it. Stupidity means you can't. Even if I taught you 1,000,000 times, you would still never get it. And that's tragic, but that appears to be the case for a lot of people in this. And here's Putin. You said he's based. The guy gave a history lesson for the last 1,000 years in the region. He did it. He was very articulate. He didn't stutter, stammer, forget. Smooth SOB. Super smooth. Incredibly intelligent. I mean, I think we all knew he was former KGB. I mean, I think we all knew he had some level of intelligence. But last night, a feeling of dread really came over me as I came to the realization that our foreign adversaries have leaders who are much smarter than our leaders. Much smarter. And I found it interesting how he talked about his relationships with different presidents. The truth is, they've been on the... We are dumb aggressors. That's what we are. The worst kind. Dumb overexpanders. You know what happens to them? My history lovers out there? Of course you do. Yeah, sheep. That's what happens to them. What do you see as the core issue with getting these Nevada votes in quicker? This delay is ideal for Dems to exploit. How can Nevada do better in the general? Again, I'm a huge fan of finger verification. They have to get rid of all forms of ballot harvesting, which Lombardo's, he's done some, but without full control over the executive branch, there's not so much you could do. There's a lot that you personally can do by making sure that you're there, being a poll watcher, being a witness, get on your board, your elections board, your local elections board, who determines what's verified and what's not. Quicker is going to be tough because this has been a problem with this state for a while. It has. So honestly, they need an overhaul. And to do that, you need to win elections. And you need to win them overwhelmingly. Otherwise, they're going to be able to do this. I'm telling you from the beginning, the best thing that you can do is make sure participation is extremely high, because there's this misunderstanding out there that they can just keep feeding in late arriving absentee ballots. They don't come out of nowhere, folks. That's a low-hanging fruit that was left by you, your friends who didn't vote, change of address flags. If you can vote at a rate that makes it the math impossible for them. And that's what needs to be done. That is absolutely what needs to be done. Let me take a real quick sip of water, though. Hang on. Yeah. I'm just reading, and I'll read it again, but all right. So, does Rich have any inside dope on what the hell is going on with the Michigan Republican Party mess? There is a lot of crossfire, so who are the actual good guys versus bad guys, and can they pull their heads out or not? The methods that they used to remove Christina Caramo are not legitimate, and they installed Pete Hoekstra. I really think, after speaking with people on both sides, I think they're good people on both sides. Here is what I think they need to do to pull their heads out, because I'm not sure there are any bad people. There are people who are burned and are bad faith actors. There's no doubt about that. There are delegates like that. There are chairs like that. And then there are outside people who don't really know what they're talking about. That's stirred up in the hornet's nest. And first of all, let me just say this. And is there any way I can get coffee, Laura? I'm like dying for a cup of coffee. Christina Caramo being the head of that organization after she claimed to have left is stupid. We file an annual report once a year. Officers on the business are not changed when they leave, if they leave in the month of September. All right. They are changed at the end of the year when we file the annual report. So just take that into consideration.
Oh, your cup's not
All right. No, it's up there. I washed it already and I got it ready and I started warming the water and I forgot. Yep. We talked a lot about House GOP looking dysfunctional. And here's what I propose they do. I think, since they represent two wings, and that if your goal is truly unity, then what they need to do, and I would be happy to intervene, is get Pete Hoekstra and Christina Caramo in a room with each other. And if they can't settle this behind closed doors, which I suspect they cannot, then they should co-chair the Michigan Republican Party. Let Pete help you bring in money that otherwise wouldn't bring you in money. Let Christina put forward ideas and cut stuff that is totally worthless. Listen, if you don't think Ronna McDaniel was living on the hog over there in Michigan the way that she is now at the RNC, you are sadly mistaken. There's infrastructure and overhead that is completely unnecessary in the modern world. With the exception of a few centralized posts, you will not see the DNC spend lavishly on this crap. So I support what Christine was trying to do with cutting that waste. Did she make mistakes? Probably. I'm not, 100% privy to the details of all of these allegations, but some of them are just totally ridiculous. But it's gotten to a point now where there's so many digs have been made at each other that I'm not sure there's a way forward with either just Pete Hoekstra or just Christina Caramo. When Donald Trump is gone and he is no longer on the ballot, you're going to get your asses kicked in Michigan overwhelmingly. And there's, thank God, somebody who's working to get people on the permanent absentee ballot list. This group has got to be separate from everybody because of the mess. And the goal is just to help everyone, and I totally support it. But it would be best if those third-party groups had infrastructure they could rely on. It would be best if everybody would stop fighting with each other. If you can't bring it together, and I don't think that gap can be closed at this point. I don't. Just too much bad blood and distrust. Then they should co-chair and move forward from there. And I would be happy to try to get them both in a room. Laura and I already offered that we will do our part to get one in the room. It's up to the other one. We've talked a lot about the House GOP looking dysfunctional and Dems flipping it in November. How much credibility will the GOP get back if Mayorkas is impeached in Tuesday's revote with Steve Scalise? It's a start, but it's not everything. Thank you, love. Ooh, you even put cinnamon in there? Oh, yeah. Ooh, hold on, guys. I need a swig of this. Oh, yeah. It's hot, though. I'm going to burn myself. I found real Sicilian pizza here from New Yorkers who are from my area of New York who moved down here. They do it right. Sicilian is not a friggin' meat lover's pizza. It's a raised, different dough, raised, and it's square or rectangle. Oh my God, I found it. And I knew it was going to be right. I knew it because he was like telling me how they were preparing it. It takes a long time. So he's like kind of bitching, but that was all right. I was all right with it. Anyway, I get it home and I bite into it and the crust it has a different taste. And the crust is on the money and I just start crushing it. I crushed it so hard, I cut the inside of my mouth in multiple places with the crust. I wasn't chewing with my teeth as much. I was kind of like swallowing. Folks, I haven't had one since Jersey. It's been almost 2 decades, Laura. 15 years more than 15 years. More. The last, I remember it like it was yesterday. The last Sicilian pizza I had was Red Moon Pizza in Howell, New Jersey on Route 9. And I had like 2 slices of it on the way to Marlboro or something. I was headed. And that was it. And I haven't had it since. Anyway, so the coffee could burn me if I'm not careful. Oh, Laura, I needed that. Thank you so much. So yeah, I mean, it'll get some of it back, but it needs to be, they just have so many members with so many vote records that are bad now. There needs to be no more of these backdoor deals, trying to screw over the voters. They've messed up so much already. I don't know. It's not looking good for them. And in some of the dangerous races, I keep hammering them because it's so true. And because I freaking told you so. If you would have elected David Giglio in 2022, California 13, you wouldn't be ready to lose your congressman right now. It's gone. Or switched your chips, whichever one. Switch your Q codes. That's what I think you did, personally. I absolutely think you switched those Q codes. Anyway, so it's kind of hard. And then what are you going to do to help Ken Calvert? I mean, what's he going to do? Is he going to all of a sudden miraculously look great? I mean, he was reminding me of Dana Rohrabacher right now, circa 2018. Even Mike Garcia's got himself in trouble. Although I think Mike is one of the stronger ones. David Valadeo's in deep crap. Multiple races in New York are a problem. It's bad. It's a bad situation for Republicans. I'm just not going to lie to you. And that's what happens when you're a bunch of biatches and you don't fight redistricting the way you need to fight. And the census screwed them, by the way. The census count, then we know, by the way, because there's always a report that's done after that sees whether or not the census was done correctly. And shocker, we were undercounted, Laura, grossly. But of the major mistakes, it was all but one blue state. So it's more than that, too. It's like them counting urban areas and certain suburbs more accurately or higher, overrepresenting them, which is what happened to us here in North Carolina. That's major, major blow to when you go to redistrict. And then, the use of these independent commissions is ridiculous. That takes out your say in whether or not you approve of your map. So yeah, there's just a lot. It's a lot as a problem. They need a huge Trumpy-like turnout. It's in November in order to keep the House. They need huge Trumpy-like turnout. And now Don Bacon is in trouble in Nebraska too. So the guy sells his soul to the military-industrial complex, is their bitch, and yet still he's about to lose his seat. And the financial industry, but that's Bacon's district. Look at your credit card statement. Look at the return address when you get it in the mail. You're going to see. What does it say? Nebraska. Nevada's results were humiliating. I spent 0 time and money in the state. None of these candidates, neither did I. Oh, I get what you're doing. Oh, I would play it she's such a liar. She's an absolute liar. Hold on, let me see. Because I actually brought something up the other day, and this idiot journalist, who said that, by the way? Dreher? Was that Dreher? This idiot journalist, yep, that was Dreher Spider, is like nodding his head in agreement as she BS's their audience. Everybody knows that's not true, what she said. Everybody knows that is not true. And yet they allowed her to go on there without pushback and just give that nonsense statement. And then hilariously Ramble Rants memed her, which was just epic. Oh, here it is. Let me pull it up. It's very, very short. Let me pull it up. Get rid of this. Bring up the video. Yeah, here it is. Alex Michelson, his name is, and he works for Fox LA. A total stooge, this guy is. Watch him nod along in improvement as she bullshits his audience.
That situation, Nevada, hurt a little bit? Wait, does that situation, Nevada, hurt a little bit?
No, I mean, Nevada, it's such a scam. They were supposed to have
You're a
primary.
scam, lady.
Trump rigged it so that the GOP chairman, who's
Whoa, Laura, call the FBI. We have an election denier. She just accused Donald Trump of rigging the election, and I can tell you there is no widespread evidence that that is true. Charge Nikki Haley. She's an election denier. Indict her.
Indicted. Would go and,
by the way, she just mocked that guy. Listen to what she says.
Would go and create the GOP chairman who's been indicted.
Trump.
Rigged it so that the GOP chairman who's been indicted.
Okay. This piece of crap, this woman, I'm losing patience with her. I'm going to objectively cover as I always do and give you my analysis, but I'm telling you right now, this woman is really getting on my nerves. The Trump chairman who's been indicted, Trump rigged it with the GOP chair who's been indicted. She's been indicted for exactly what Nikki Haley just said. I mean, basically, being an election denier is why he's indicted. So she does that as a dig to try to hurt the credibility of a person and then goes on to engage in the behavior that that person was really indicted for. She's a Democrat. Daniel and I were just talking about this. She's a Democrat. That's what the special counsel did. That's the kind of it's not even a non sequitur. It's just, no, it's good old fashioned hypocrisy. Good old fashioned lack of principles, lack of standard, hypocrisy. Nikki Haley is a Democrat.
Would go and create a caucus. We knew months ago that we weren't going to spend a day or a dollar in Nevada because it wasn't worth it. And so we didn't even count Nevada. That wasn't anything we were looking at. We knew that was rigged from the start. Our focus is on South Carolina.
We knew it was rigged from the start. Sure, he says, sure. Oh, I know what's going on here. Alex has been in the back of Nikki's SRX. That's what's going on here. I don't know what you heard about me.
On a Michigan Super Tuesday. So if you look what we did in Iowa and you look what we did in New Hampshire, we're continuing to grow. That's what matters, I think, more than anything else. But look at what happened this week.
She's continuing to grow. She went backwards. None of the above beat her. She's continuing to grow. She was at 40% in New Hampshire. She got creams at 30%. Nothing this woman says is true.
Here you have Republicans lost a major vote on the border. Republicans lost a major vote on Israel. Donald Trump was found that he will not have immunity in all of these court cases coming up.
It's an appeal.
The RNC chair is fired. All of this chaos is happening around us, and Donald Trump's fingerprints are on every bit of it.
Listen, her fingerprints are all over. I'm going to put these documents on Twitter. I'm done with this woman. I'm going to burn someone, I think. I want to burn them. I don't want to burn them because I don't want to burn them. But I don't want to burn them because I don't want to burn them. But I'm sick of this woman. She's such a liar. I dare you to come on Inside the Numbers and tell us and tell our viewers that, Nikki Haley. I dare you, because then I'm going to put these emails up on the screen while you're talking. You are a liar. Bald face liar. That's it. You know what? Somebody tweet this to her right now, her communications people. Open invite on the show. I dare you to come on the show and say that to our audience. I dare you. Come on Inside the Numbers. Here's your challenge. I'm challenging you. Come on Inside the Numbers, and I dare you to claim what you just claimed to Alex on Inside the Numbers. I dare you. I'll figure out how to make it up to this person. I dare you. You got to be careful with burning people, because then nobody wants to be a source for you anymore.
I just want to know, when did we become the country where mental illness is like a requirement for being a candidate? Because
Well, you know what the problem is here, Laura? Mental illness is a major problem in this country. And mental illness is being celebrated as like a civil rights cause right now. I mean, various forms of it are. Mental illness is a major, major problem. It's an epidemic in our country. And you know that. I'm not going to say her name, but you know that from your friend.
I know, but
she was studying to treat mentally ill people, and yet the entire system was mentally ill. This is a serious problem. I'd rather be a drug addict than mentally ill with them, because it's all a mental illness. I'd rather have addiction than be mentally ill like some of these people. I'm serious. At least I can, at least the prescription is God in the case of addiction, and it's pretty straightforward. In the case of them, some of them even claim to be religious. I don't know what the cure is for them, Laura. I don't know. Anyway, hilariously, I got to play this after. I'll get all the questions. I will. We'll do a lightning thing. But hilariously, this is really what Nikki Haley was saying. All right? And it's only 50 seconds. Listen. Warning, graphic content, foul language. Okay? Oh yeah, I'm not going to do that one, but I am going to do the other one, which is a version of this interview. This is what Nikki Haley was really saying. Are you ready? Even though there's a community note underneath this thing, as if we all don't know that it's an AI meme, but it's really the funniest part about it. And this is why the Dilly Meme team is so effective, because what they say and do is, like, of course, crude. It's vulgar. It's whatever you want to call it. But it's the truth. It's the truth. This is what she really is saying, isn't it?
I mean, Nevada is such a shithole. They were supposed to have a primary. Trump rigged it so that he wouldn't appear on the ballot, leaving me unopposed. And this way, I'd look like an idiot when I lost to none of the above. I decided months ago that I wasn't going to spend a day or a dollar in Nevada, because fuck those people. I really couldn't care less about Nevada. All they have is one city in the desert, and legalized prostitution is boring. No, my focus is on getting pummeled in South Carolina, Michigan, and Super Tuesday, because that's one thing I know about getting pummeled. So I continue to get pummeled, and that's what really matters. Hail Hydra.
And I'm not going to show the rest of it because it's
but I loved it.
It's completely vulgar. The funny thing is, we were playing some of the really vulgar memes last night while we were waiting for results, because people said, yes, play them. And I was like, I don't want to insult the ladies. The ladies were laughing harder than the men. They were, which is hilarious. See, you see, and he thinks it's hilarious. So it's like, they're the ones who are not. Why the Dilly Meme team is so effective is because they'll do something like that, which is use it's not hyperbole, it's like over the top, but they're right and it's true. Like what she said in a nice way in the first 30 seconds to Alex was F Nevada, right? So even though it's not true, what she's trying to claim is not true, what she's really saying is F those people. I don't care about them,
Send me the link. Everybody wants it.
Everybody wants the link. All right. I'll put it in the private. Okay. All right. So what's Trump's ceiling in Clark County come November? 52%. That's from YouTube, C509. Yeah, I actually, C509. I see what you did there. Yeah, I think that's ballpark right. I do. I think 52% is about his ceiling. I do. And I think at this rate, it is possible, even likely, that Donald Trump is going to carry Clark County. All the polling, it's not just what we had seen, but I had Adam Laxalt right around where he got in Clark County. I had Joe Lombardo a little better, right around where he got in Clark County. And actually, both of them did just a hair better when people fully decided. We had Trump winning Clark County. And that's why he was up by like 9 in our poll. And people could say that was crazy, but Laxalt was up by like less than 2. Lombardo was up by a little bit more, but less than 2. And roughly when everyone decided in Clark, it pushed Cortez Masto over, and you could see Laxalt's loss even in that +2 in our poll. You could see it because he was down in Washoe County and she was at 51% and he was down. He got all of those undecideds in Washoe, but ultimately he lost it and she got about 50% and he got about 49 and change. So that was really accurate. Trump was ahead in Washoe County by 8, and I believe he was ahead by 4 in Clark. So, you know, I believe it is my point. And then even the New York Times, they had Trump +10, which was even more than us. People were like, it's probably a little crazy, except Bloomberg, which had Biden up in their prior poll in Nevada, now has Trump +8. So, I mean, we're all right in that same area. And yes, it's known for overstating Republican support, but not that much. Adam Laxalt was only up in the Real Clear Politics average by about 1.5 points. He was not up bigly, you know. Trump's up like 8% in Nevada right now in the decision desk average. It's crazy. How long does neocon Nikki stay in? You know, normally in a normal cycle, and Sean Parnell and I were talking about this last night on our coverage, she'd be out by now. I mean, as long as Democrats want to continue to fund her, because she's not making money from Republicans anymore. This is all Democratic money. Am I going to talk about the Hawaii case? I just don't know that much about it, and I wanted to focus on that. You know, Daniel gave us an hour of our of his time, but there is another lawyer we're trying to get on next week, and we'll bring that up with him, right? Which is, of course, Mike. We could have had Mike on today, but Laura and I got our wires crossed. I only wanted like 10 or 15 minutes. She asked for more. And that was not going to work with his schedule. So we'll try to get him on next week and talk about that. Is anyone surprised with the open acknowledgement from the institutions that Biden is senile? I know, Garrett. I know. I am actually a little bit surprised that they would just openly say, we can't charge him because he's senile. Like, the jury may find it sympathetic that he's a mentally incompetent old man.
I have a question. Do you think it's like that mafia guy where he plays that dumb?
Oh, Vinny the Chin Gigante.
Yes,
oh man,
that's his name.
That's my grandfather's boy. You kidding me? It is. Vinny. He loved Vinny. He did. He was a good guy. He was nice. Vinny used to walk around and pretend that he was. Well, what does it matter now, Laura? It doesn't matter now.
Yeah,
those guys are all gone. It doesn't matter. My grandfather's dead, so who cares? But Vinny the Chin Gigante was the head of the Genovese crime family, and he used to walk around and pretend that he was insane and like schizophrenic, and he would walk around like with his slippers and his bathrobe on. Yeah, that's him. Walking down like, you know, Madison Avenue. The guy was hilarious. And the FBI was duped for many, many years. But then he'd like come in the house and be like, hey, got a quarter behind you. Bounce you on the knee. He was Vinny was cool. Anyway, yeah, whatever. He's a mass murderer. I don't care. So was the government. So anyway, I don't think that Biden's doing that. I don't. I don't. The reason why is because I saw him personally when he was running for president and announcing in Wilmington, Delaware. I'll never forget it. They didn't know people were watching. The media was on the other side of that building. They walked him out of the side of that building down the ramp. One person holding each arm, one on each arm, one on every side, each side, holding him by the elbow as he did the geriatric shuffle down the damn ramp for the wheelchair. Right? Remember that, Laura? I called you. I was like, Joe Biden is a cripple at this point. Like, I called him geriatric Joe Biden. I
from the beginning.
Yeah, I was like geriatric Joe. I was like, this is not the man who debated Paul Ryan. He's gone, Laura. You got to see this. And he had like those spots on him and stuff, and it was crazy. I mean, they did what they had to do to make him look a little bit better. I don't think he's lying. I don't. But yeah, it's a good question. Who you got in the game on Sunday? The South Carolina report is basically the DOJ saying, yeah, he did it, but suck my you-know-what. And then 3, could Haley ever come back from this week's humiliation? Because I doubt it. No, I think Nikki Haley's done as a Republican. I do. I think she'll wait around to see if Trump loses so she could say, I told you so. Oh, by the way, I'm the new Republican Party. Because listen, the Uniparty wants control of both parties. So they're going to have people pretending to be Republicans forever. You're not going to run them all out. And if Trump wins, she will become a Democrat. and she'll be on MSNBC and CNN, and you're going to see her doing the rounds. I guarantee you, because she has no friends anymore. She's done. And it's a good point. I don't have anybody in the game on Sunday, and I'm not a gambling man. The closest I ever get to gambling is, and I don't do it now because you really have to constantly be in it 100%. But on off seasons, I guess I would say, I do trade options, and I mean that's the most simple way to put it together. I make trading strategies, and that's about as much as I get, as close as gambling that I get. Ask Laura. You know, we used to live around casinos from Atlantic City, and I just never been a big thing. And then even in Florida, you know, Indian casinos, I'll walk around the whole damn casino, not throw a quarter in a slot until, like, you know, and I'm ready. I feel like it. I'm just not a gambler. I don't like losing my hard-earned money, but I do like options, trading strategies and stuff. I do enjoy that, but you have to be watching it like a hawk. You have to be.
But that's also done with research and delving into companies and things of that nature that you do. So is it really gambling?
It's totally, that's what I'm saying. It still is, because you're fighting against the institutional trade. They call you dumb money, retail traders or home, for that reason, because they have more information, but it's not full on gambling. I don't believe that. Yeah, it's a good point. I should have asked Daniel this. I didn't. He said, Ken Cash and Merrick Garland. Cash Patel said Merrick Garland and Joe Biden should be called as witnesses in Trump's document case. I don't think they have. I don't know about Joe Biden, but conversations between Joe Biden and Merrick Garland, they're going to claim that they have privilege with, which is ironic because they gave Steve Bannon a 4-month sentence, and they gave Peter Navarro similarly a 4-month sentence, and maybe 6. But Navarro got denied for his appeal to stay out of prison while it's a pending appeal. I mean, these people are just totally out of control. I should have asked Daniel that. I'm not sure, though. What do you think of the Biden presser? Awful. We've talked about this. Do you think that they're just that desperate that they felt they had to put him out there? Yeah. I was talking with Parnell about this last night, too. I'm starting to wonder whether or not, Nico, all these people are smart enough to do is win elections, and that when it comes to everything else, they're pretty much dumb people. I'm flirting with that idea. I'm wondering. I really am. It's a great question. My take on his presser between Bud and Nico's questions is that this man is textbook senile. And did you notice when the media pressed him on it, he got nasty? That's what old senile people do. When they get frustrated and can't, it's not going their way, they get angry and throw a tantrum. That was a senile tantrum last night. That's what you saw. And then, he really kept confusing. He said, that's not what it said. It did not say I had classified stuff. And then he's like, oh, I didn't mean that. Stuff I shouldn't have. It's really a better word I should have used. But it wasn't classified. And they're like, but that's what the report says. He's like, don't tell them! You don't tell me! Oh my God, Grandpa. Take your freaking prune juice and go back to Ben-Hur. Holy shit. Imagine this with world leaders like Vladimir Putin. So the truth is, I can't give you my take on just the presser without also factoring in the events of the rest of the night. It's terrifying to me now. I am at the point where Sean Parnell was right. This guy is beyond a national security threat in the way that we thought. Oh, his son is a crook. His brother's a crook. They got him compromised. He's a crook. It's a national security problem. That's way worse than that. It's worse than we thought. Who's got the nuclear football, by the way? You ever think of that? Who's got the football? Who's got the codes? Friggin' Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Like, sniff 2 lines and forget the codes. This guy is... It's scary. I'm serious. It bothers me. Really does. Met with the TPA representative here in Arizona to link up with link our LD with their work. That's cool. Sounds like Trump and Lake will have them run their get out the vote effort. Your opinion on their skill level? They were in love with L2, through which gave me some reservation. Yeah, they don't listen. And they're nice people over at L2. They are. They just don't have the attributes. And their automotive database is separate. All of that stuff, I mean, it just sounds like they're trying to make some. There are 400 attributes at most attached to a voter in L2. In our database, there are 1,400. I think they can raise money, and I think they got bodies. But I don't think that this was the right way to go. I love them, and they know that. And I haven't made any bones about it. I don't think it was the right way to go. I don't think people should reinvent the wheel. And everyone should play to their strengths. And everybody should play in their lanes. That's what I think. And look, if they win, they're going to take credit for it, right? But if they lose, there's going to be a reckoning. Hi, Rich. And I love, let me just say, I love those guys. I just, I just think that Democrats don't play games like this. Democrats stay in their lanes. And everyone knows what cog they are. And they run in their own, they handle their own component and in a well-oiled machine. Like, there's no time to play catch up and teach people. It's just not. And that's what a lot of them had been doing for the first 5 months. Learning how they think this goes. I mean, the one of them that is in charge, I had to explain delegate rules to. I did a public debate with them. Do you remember that? Does anyone remember listening to it? Good guy. But if debate rules are complicated for you, then I'm not sure you know what it takes to motivate a person. Anyway, that's my personal opinion. And I have to tell you now, and I applaud their effort. Nobody else wanted to step up. But then other people did. And they're not, and they have expertise. I know several of them. And they're having a hard time integrating with that effort. So if that's going to be the case, and you want to play everything close to your vest, you're going to leave the good talent out there. And it's not smart. It's just not smart. And also, they're only focusing on 3 states. They are dealing with some other states, but I'm telling you, the demographics are saying that Michigan may actually be the easier pickup for Trump this time. And we're going to be talking more about that, actually. And locals, we have a lot of you who are from Michigan, and I really want to bring something to you. I want to show you something. All right. This was 6 full weeks. Oh, hi, Laura, got a question for Rich. Joe Biden and the Washington Post blamed Trump in a tweet in October 2019 for not being prepared for a pandemic. This was 6 full weeks before COVID was ever mentioned anywhere in the world. This means Democrats knew COVID was coming. Should Trump put that tweet in TV ads with context? I'd have to look it up, Rich, and see. But there were multiple statements by multiple different kinds of people that did suggest they thought a pandemic was coming. And that's really kind of crazy. So, I mean, if that is, the case, I just think there's better ways to hit them. I do. Unless you get it stone cold, the connection with Fauci and everything, and the Institute for Virology, and unless you have it stone cold and you can prove that they knew there was a lab leak or something, and then they used it to their political advantage. I mean, you could now say that they exploited it. There's so much you could do. You have Biden's now he's the chief of staff, or was, but you have Biden's then advisor, quoting to Fox News that they basically couldn't wait for 200,000 body bags during the summer because the polling would turn in their favor. So there's already a wealth of information you could use to show to run an ad hitting Democrats over exploiting the COVID pandemic. I do think that that's there already. I do. Does Rich know all 3,143 counties in the country? Not all of the counties.
Liar.
Like, nah, I mean, I know them all. I just don't think I could recite them all. But there are.
But I think if you saw the shape of them.
Yeah. Well, that's me. You know, I have a photographic memory for people who don't know that. It's the one good thing I think I got from my biological mother. I got a photo. It's genetic. I really believe that. I don't know. I've never tried. I've never researched it, but my mother had one and I have it. It's when I can close my eyes and recall something. So, the shape of something, a map, topography. I used to do it in college. Laura used to think, drove her nuts. Like, we'd go through and I'd be like, oh, that's Caravaggio, like going through paintings and stuff. I just close my eyes and remember
the page number,
the attributed the page it was on and the attributes that were associated with it. So even if I didn't look at it and be like, oh, it's a Pollock, everyone knows Pollock, but something like that, I'd be like, wait, and I'd close my eyes and be like, okay, that was page 62, that's Jackson Pollock, and I would remember the footnote. So a lot of that comes with, as I get older, it isn't as sharp as it used to be. And if it is, I have to block out other stupid stuff. This is why Laura has to deal with my schedule, because if I want to remember all these numbers, and sometimes I cannot focus on crap, and I'll forget mundane stuff because my brain is just focused on other stuff. As I get older, that's happening. I'm 42-year-old man, but there are battleground states where I can list every single county. And I would say in battleground states, and even more, most of the counties I know demographic makeups and stuff, off the top of my head, yeah, kind of. And their vote histories that I know quite a bit of. Not everyone though, but a lot of them. Status of ill GOP. What are the odds flipping USA? Yeah, I mean, ideas, not money. I think honestly, I want to see that. Keep that up there. I want to see that from John. I think, we talked about this a little bit, but ideas, not money. I think the odds of the House getting flipped are very high, probably in the neighborhood of 75, 80%. Hey, Rich, had dentist appointment today and feel like crap, so broke my social media rule to watch. Should make none of the above t-shirts. Keep the faith, and God bless you and your family. Thank you, John. God bless you and yours too, and I pray your tooth feels better. Or whatever you got going on. I hope speedy recovery and you feel better. That's a great idea. None of these candidates, People's Pundit shirts. Oh my God. I love this idea, Laura. That's another reason why we have to completely revamp People's Pundit. Better merchandise. The website.
Yeah,
I want to keep our theme. I love it. We had that theme, which now it's sold. There's a generic version of it that's sold. Other people can use, but we had that theme built. I love it. And now it's becoming a problem. We're going to have to use the same framework that was used to build Big Data Poll. Sucks. But I think
I was also speaking to Sean, and Sean's going to get me in touch with Melanie. And we're going to talk about stuff like that.
Oh, cool. That's a good idea. What are the priorities for the new GOP chair? Lawfare, GOP data, local party building. I mean, all of that's going to be important, but right off the bat, fundraising, of course, is big. They're going to have to find, because the RNC is broke, but also the infrastructure for the ballot chasing has to be done. And not just ballot chasing, registration, then chasing. It's really two parts. There's the registration of people who are non-registered voters, and then there's the putting on the absentee ballot of the low propensity voters to make it easy for them. And then later there's the chase. This is another reason. Again, I'm not trying to attack Turning Point. I'm simply saying they don't know how to identify these people like that. They don't know what it takes to nudge people to do it. They just don't. I'm sorry. And I'm telling you, there's a ton of people who are going to be left out. Everyone's talking about, look, there are 30,000 hunters. Like, dude, the 30,000 should be on a huge list of way more people that you targeted. Then they should all be broken down geographically. There are ways to use machine learning technology to make it super easy for you to target these people the most efficiently that there is. They don't know that stuff, I know, and I can tell you, I am. If with their numbers of volunteers, if they use, for instance, the AI kind of I don't want to get too much into it, but the AI tech that we have access to, Laura, they could turn like 100 volunteers into groups that have basically 1,000 volunteers each, so they would multiply each of those people on the ground by a factor of 1,000. And L2, it's good data. It's not great data. It's just not. Sorry. It's just not. You're going to miss a lot of people using L2. And I know, Laura, how many people have we come to who built apps and stuff like that, and they used L2 first?
Mm-hmm.
It became too many to count. It became a huge part of our business, huge part, and it was never supposed to be. And it was people saying, "Listen, there's always going to be data that's wrong or incorrect or incomplete or missing. That's always going to happen." But we've done this. We've run side-by-side comparisons of inference modelings, of targets, of attribute. We've done it. And L2 is good, but it is not great. And then you're going to have to take that data and augment it yourself. You need your own database where you can update it, because guess what? Every month when you make those changes, it's going to re-update and override your updates with shit again. So you need to know how to build whatever you're using, SQL, whatever they need to know how to build their own massive databases on their own servers. They don't have this. We have two, actually, sitting in the state of Michigan. I'm talking about physical servers. You need it because the database is so huge. You cannot get a website from freaking GoDaddy. Like, that's not... Leaving it alone. All right. Anyway, get out the vote, get out the vote, get out the vote, get out the vote. Because once Donald Trump is gone, he's gone. And those people are not going to sign up for Republicans. We asked these people, who would motivate you? Who could motivate you? Who would you feel, we know you're not voting. We know you're not registered or you're not likely to vote. Who would motivate you to vote? I mean, Donald Trump is literally the only one cited. When he's gone, all that opportunity is gone. So it's problematic. All right, you got to stop adding them, Laura. We're way over the line. She just keeps adding them. I gotta cut it off. It's 2:22. Joe Biden in the Washington. Oh, we already got there. I like the chair of the. I'd hate to lose him, but I like the Republican Party chair, Michael Whiteley of North Carolina. I mean, people are like, Scott Pressler for RNC chair. Listen, you got to know what you're doing, and Scott is great. Again, this is what I'm talking about with lanes. Scott is great for what he does, and whomever is the chair next should utilize Scott for that work. But now is not the time to bring someone in who needs training wheels in any of this, whether it's vote chasing. Scott knows how to vote chase. Turning Point should be having Scott teach all of their people how to vote chase. I'm talking about script practice and everything. That's what they should do. I know Rich is famously critical of the House GOP, but I'm wondering what advice would Rich give them to help keep the House? At this point, John, I mean, that's somebody had asked a similar question. At this point, shut up and let Trump run up votes. Stop getting in the way of him. Stop causing contrast between you and him. Stop causing rifts. Stop confusing the voters. Stop giving them a reason to have think the party's in an identity crisis, which it is. Just shut up. Let him be the face and the message of your party. And I know people are like, oh my God, Trump. Yes, Trump. He's running an incredibly disciplined campaign. His policies are broadly popular, supermajority support for most of his, big main policies. And people see him as their guy. There's no other Republican that you could say that for. Please share the word about the North Carolina GOP head refusing to allow handwritten paper ballots for leadership election. They have their. It's not just him that's doing that, Scott. It's not. Where else? I mean, again, it's like that seems mundane to me. compared to what he has accomplished. Have you seen the trend in the voter registration? I think Laura and I were here a week before we were approached by Republicans, right? 2 weeks, maybe. Hey, welcome to town. Have you registered to vote?
It was sooner. It was 4 days, Richard.
I mean, honestly, I'm
was 4
busy,
days.
but it was like, there you go, 4 days.
You were still unpacking. They're like, "Hey, did you register?"
Hey,
to vote?" Like, okay.
Hold on 1 second. Welcome to the neighborhood.
I was just like thoroughly impressed. I'm like, all right, at least I know somebody's doing their job here.
Yep. And even in Florida, that did not happen. They're overrated. You want the truth? There's a lot of people who do a lot of hard work, but compared to what you can see in other places, they're overrated. Florida became red because of trends and Trump, the two T's. Jen Lovelette. I love that name. Thanks, Rich, for all hard work. I have a quick question. Do you think they're testing Haley for part of a Dem ticket when they pull the buy? When I'm telling you, unless you know what, and I hate using words because words have power, but I'll just say this. All right. He's going to be the nominee, but I do think that they're testing the waters for her kind of a candidate and how she would appeal on either a no labels. Will she pull votes away from Trump or Biden, which, by the way, it's overwhelming. They're so stupid they would even consider that, but I know they are because I heard McCrory in North Carolina. Now he's with no labels. Pat McCrory, who ran against Ted Budd for the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate in 2022. That Pat McCrory. Also, one supposedly conservative former governor who lost re-election by a few thousand votes. That Pat McCrory. Now, all of a sudden, he's a no labels guy. And they were literally talking about Nikki Haley. Like, we're going to test and see how she does. Like, he really thinks two things. One, like Nikki Haley is not going to draw votes from Biden more than she's going to draw from Trump. Of course she is. And then two, that he can win the state with 35%, 33, 35%. He doesn't understand Trump's vote is not coming below 44. Not. You cannot win with 35%. But that's what these people think. Can Joe be held accountable for elder abuse? You know, that's a good question. I don't know that anybody ever would do that, but somebody's how can it not be his wife? Somebody's abusing this poor bastard. I remember him warning early in 2020 on how Democrats were going to steal I'm not familiar with Bill McGinley. I'll be honest. I'm really not. I'll tell you this, though. There's a whole lot of people who claim now. You're talking about the White House press secretary, I guess? Or wasn't he cabinet secretary or something? What the hell did Bill do? Hold on. Oh, let me look it up. He's the general counsel at the Vogel Group. Yeah, he was in the Trump administration. Now he's a lobbyist. So I don't know how I feel about that. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, it says right here that there was controversy over him becoming there was a rule. You work in the Trump administration, you cannot be a lobbyist for several years, and he stepped into it right after a day. I'm telling you, I remember being as vocal as I could be with the size of the crowd that I had at that time, the voice that I had at that time, and I don't remember many people talking about it. And if they did, eventually, because people did catch on eventually, they didn't talk about it correctly, and they would make misleading statements that would make people make the job of people like me much harder, because I'd have to explain to people there's a difference between absentee ballot voting and what they're proposing with vote by mail now. And people who were against it were just kind of obfuscating it, and it allowed the media to punch huge holes in their argument because they were wrong. They didn't know what they were talking about. So Florida's had absentee ballot voting for many, many years, and it used to be dominated by Republicans, but it wasn't unsolicited mail-in balloting. There was no third-party chain of custody. There was strict signature verification and other verification procedures. And by the way, the mere fact that it's not unsolicited is a verification procedure in and of itself. Because when unsolicited ballot applications or ballots go out, then anyone can get a hold of them. You have to request them when they're unsolicited, and then when you do, you're going to have to require proof. In Florida's, it's very difficult. But because people weren't understanding that, things like this happened. This is Florida. That image is from somebody we all know. The last 4 people that lived at his residence got it. That was the difference. Not that people were absentee ballot voting. People absentee ballot voted in Florida all the time, but that it was doing more like what California does. This is one person's home. All 4 of those ballots, nobody in his home belongs to those ballots. He got his. Oh, and by the way, he also got one in Arizona, in Phoenix, where he has another home. So in California, it's no longer his residence. He still owns the home, but he doesn't live and vote there. So he got his own in California. He got one in Phoenix, Arizona, and then 4 that showed up at his door from people who lived at his prior residence in California. That was the difference. Killing me. But no, I mean, other than that, I really have nothing else to say. But it's 2:30. It's time to kick rocks and get on out of here. Let's take a real quick vote update. 59,545 for Trump. We don't know what else is still out there, but it is possible. Trump is definitely going to have more than none of these candidates had, which was where we're currently at 94% or so reporting. None of these candidates is at 63.3%, but with 48,426 ballots, I'd be very shocked if they were able to overtake what Trump has. I don't think so. I think they're going to end up maybe in the low 50s tops. And I think Trump is going to end up right around 60,000. But a little under maybe, but he will still nonetheless have done that. So remember that when people talk about this turnout stuff, that we don't know how many people from Nevada came on Tuesday and then went back on Thursday. So realistically, we know that some of these candidates' votes obviously did not, and that they would have voted for Donald Trump. So Trump's the votes that he got was much higher. I mean, much closer to what Biden would have gotten in a caucus, and certainly close to even what he got in the primary. Very close. Very close. All right. So, yep. Wait. Public polling project starts today. Locals, we'll kick out some stuff, but we're going to do some polling this weekend. Also, so share it far and wide and do what you can if you can contribute. But even if you can't contribute, sharing is a big deal. It's a huge help to just go out and say, hey, help fund the public polling project to your Twitter feeds or whatever. It has a huge help because we have gotten these new donors and it has been very, very important. And I think that's it, right? I mean, book club, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's it. We'll see you guys then. Keep an eye to your social media. Follow along. Coming up to logos. Thanks to Jim and Bean, our special guest, Daniel Street. Got to thank him for coming on. All the best, guys. Have a safe weekend.